Chapter 670. When Zhou rested, he summoned a few companion beasts to guard the tent. The Tai Sui emitted a scorching heat, so Zhou had no choice but to release it. Old Zhou, where did these strange companion beasts of yours come from? Li Xian curiously sized up the companion beasts that Zhou had summoned. Some were bought, and some were obtained when I went out for training, Zhou said as he lay down to rest. Feng Shuyan had already fallen asleep. Without accompanying Li Xian, he had no choice but to lie down and sleep. In the middle of the night, he suddenly heard a commotion outside. He had no idea what was going on. It's so noisy in the middle of the night. Could it be that the dimensional creatures in Dragon Gate Grotto have rushed out again? Li Xian was also woken up as he said gloomily. Zhou and Feng Shuyan sat up as well. Just as they were about to go out to see what was happening, they suddenly saw the tent door open. Then, they saw Sheng barge in and ask anxiously, "Young Master One, are you all right?" "We're fine. What could happen to us?" Li Xian asked Sheng in puzzlement. Sheng carefully sized up the three of them and heaved a sigh of relief after a while. "It's good that you're fine. Stay here and don't go out. Something happened outside. You can go out after it's resolved." "What happened?" Zhou asked Sheng. "Take a look for yourself." Sheng pointed outside. Zhou and company looked out through the crack in the door and were so shocked that their jaws nearly dropped to the ground. They saw mushrooms of all kinds of colors growing on the ground, walls, and tents. Holy *T. When did this place become a mushroom base? Li Xian said. "Take a closer look at the soldiers outside," Sheng said with a heavy expression. As Sheng spoke, Zhou saw that a soldier's face looked like he had acne. There were many small mushrooms growing on it. Although the mushrooms looked rather beautiful, they made one's hair stand on end when they grew on a person's face. The soldier had a look of horror as he used his hands to grab the mushrooms on his face. However, just as he plucked the mushrooms off his face, another one quickly popped out. He kept plucking until his face was covered in blood, but the little mushrooms kept popping out. He was so frightened that he started crying. He cried while plucking the mushrooms off his face. There were many people like him. Although there were already officers controlling the situation, this kind of fear made them completely lose their usual calmness. The scene was very chaotic. The trio's legs went limp as they subconsciously touched their faces. Thankfully, there weren't any mushrooms growing on their faces. "What's going on?" Zhou asked. "We don't know yet. We are still investigating. In the entire encampment, there are only a few people who are not infected by this strange thing. It is likely to be related to the scene in the medicine recipe cave. Stay here for now. I might need you to cooperate with the investigation later. I hope we can find the reason why a portion of people don't grow mushrooms." Sheng's expression was somewhat solemn as he rushed out. "It's really a blessing from the heavens that we weren't infected by that thing. Otherwise, my handsome face would have been ruined. I wouldn't know how to live," Li Xian said with a lingering fear as he pulled the tent shut. "I don't think it's as simple as a blessing from the heavens. There must be a reason why we weren't infected by those mushrooms." Zhou looked around, but didn't see anything amiss. There weren't any mushrooms growing in their tent. The three of them and their companion beasts were fine. Tai Sui was lying near the tent's door, doing something unknown. Since he couldn't see it with the naked eye, Zhou used the Truth Listener Earring's ability to listen. Furthermore, he pushed Truth Listener's ability to its limits. When he heard that, he immediately discovered a problem. At the tent's entrance, there were many extremely tiny things that couldn't be seen by the human eye. They were moving in the air. These tiny things were even smaller than dust. If Zhou hadn't deliberately used Truth Listener's observation, he wouldn't have discovered them in the dust. Even with Truth Listener's hearing, Zhou didn't notice them in the beginning. The reason he discovered their existence was because Tai Sui was devouring those tiny things. It looked like it was enjoying itself. Zhou expanded Truth Listener's range and quickly discovered that there were many such tiny things in the air outside. They were smaller than dust and couldn't be seen by the human eye. However, when they landed on skin or other objects, they would drill into the pores and quickly sprout, growing tiny mushrooms. As they were too small, no one could discover them. Now, the entire encampment was filled with such tiny things. It was as though it was snowing. However, apart from Zhou, very few people could see them. All the soldiers were at a loss as danger floated around them. Zhou reached out to grab them and realized that his palm couldn't grab them at all. They were too small, so it was useless to grab them. Those fellows were like bacteria. Despite knowing that they were there, it was very difficult to eliminate them. Tai Sui actually discovered them and can even feed on these tiny things. It's quite impressive. Zhou saw that Tai Sui had already finished eating all the tiny things in the tent. It seemed eager to head out to eat. Zhou realized that the reason the three of them were fine was because Tai Sui was here. It had eaten all the tiny things that had invaded the room, preventing them from falling for it. The military had clearly realized the problem. Soldiers in antibacterial suits sprayed some chemicals to remove bacteria and fungi in the encampment. However, it was useless. Those tiny things were clearly not something ordinary medicine could deal with. Don't go out yet. I'll take a look at the entrance, Zhou said to Li Xian and Feng Xiuyan before opening the tent door. The moment the door opened, many tiny things immediately entered with the airflow. Tai Sui immediately jumped around excitedly and devoured the tiny things that humans couldn't see. Zhou used an essence energy skill, small fireball, that had dropped from the metalwork temple. A scarlet fireball flew out from his fingertip and collided with the almost invisible tiny things in the air. The tiny things were burned to ashes by the flames. They didn't look very strong, but because they were too small, it was impossible to discover them. That was why they caused such great harm. After burning a few tiny things to death, Zhou was suddenly surprised to discover that a tiny companion egg had dropped. The companion egg was even smaller than the tiny things. If not for Truth Listener's ability, Zhou wouldn't have been able to see it. He took out his phone and snapped a picture of the tiny companion egg. The companion egg was immediately stored in his phone. Those tiny things are really dimensional creatures. After Zhou looked at the companion egg stats, he realized the true origins of those tiny things. Parasitic spores, mortal. Chapter 671. Parasitic spores, mortal strength, 0 speed, 1 constitution, 1 primordial energy, 1 talent skill, parasitism companion form. And aren't these stats a little too weak? Zhou had never seen a companion beast with such weak stats. However, although they were very weak, they had their own advantages. Even an epic expert would find it extremely painful and troublesome to be parasitized by them if they weren't careful. Tai Sui had already rolled out as it jumped around excitedly, devouring all the parasitic spores it could see. Zhou didn't continue killing the spores. Firstly, there were too many of them. Ordinary skills couldn't kill them all. Secondly, there were still many soldiers and officers in the encampment, so it wasn't appropriate to use large-scale skills to kill the parasitic spores. The parasitic spores outside can still be eliminated, but how can I deal with the parasitic spores that have already parasitized me? Zhou pushed Truth Listener's ability to its limits, hoping to observe if the spores were all the same. Soon, Zhou realized that most of the spores were transparent and slightly white in color. These are the same dimensional creatures as the companion eggs that dropped. Apart from that, a small number of parasitic spores were light red in color. There were very few of them. Zhou tried killing some, and the dimensional crystals that dropped were at the legendary stage, but the values were very low. It was very difficult for mortal spores to drop companion eggs. Zhou killed many, but no companion eggs dropped. The mortal companion egg from before could only be attributed to luck. Zhou followed behind Tai Sui. Wherever Tai Sui passed, the spores would dodge as though they were avoiding the plague. Most of them failed to dodge in time and were devoured by Tai Sui. As he walked, Zhou discovered another golden spores, but killing them was just as simple. A tiny fireball killed the golden spores. There were very few golden spores. In a vast army of spores, there were probably 1 in a billion. It wasn't easy for Zhou to find a few, and after killing them, a companion egg dropped. Golden parasitic spores, epic life providence, microbe life soul, parasitic spirit strength, 18 speed, 20 constitution, 17 primordial energy, 20 talent skill, parasitic companion form, none. This epic companion beast has broken the bottom line of epic companion beasts. I originally thought that the weakest would be the baby tiger, but I never expected there to be an epic companion beast weaker than the baby tiger. Furthermore, it's much weaker. Zhou realized that the spores were indeed very weak. They could survive because of their tiny bodies. An epic creature like this could be easily killed by ordinary legendary level humans. The real difficulty wasn't killing them, but discovering them. The higher the level of the spores, the smaller they were. Even Truth Listener's ability could barely see the size of the golden spores. Suddenly, Zhou discovered a purple dot floating around, appearing and disappearing from time to time. With Truth Listener's ability, he nearly failed to detect its existence. It was just too small. Could it be a mythical spore? Zhou's heart stirred as he hurriedly got Tai Sui to roll over. Even the mythical spore was afraid of the mortal stage Tai Sui. When it wanted to run, it was burned by Zhou's fireball. However, this time, the purple spore wasn't burned to death. It continued floating into the distance. Zhou pulled out the golden overlord sword and slashed with a powerful sword beam. Although it was very small, the sword beam's surface area was large enough that it still struck its body. To Zhou's surprise, the golden sword aura failed to kill it. This spore is interesting. Zhou used a few more skills and realized that he couldn't kill the purple spore. At that moment, Tai Sui had already rolled over. It leaped up and pounced at the purple spore. The purple spore that couldn't be killed by swords and sabers seemed to have encountered its nemesis. Its body trembled incessantly as it was sucked in by Tai Sui. Seeing that the purple spore had been sucked into Tai Sui's body, Zhou couldn't help but sigh. Everything has its vanquisher. A mortal stage Tai Sui can actually restrain a mythical spore. This fellow is quite useful. In the future, with Tai Sui by my side, I won't be afraid of being ambushed by microscopic companion beasts and dimensional creatures. I say, Tai Sui, don't just focus on eating. Did it leave behind any companion eggs or dimensional crystals? Zhou didn't hold much hope as he asked casually. To his surprise, Tai Sui really understood him. It reluctantly spat out a tiny purple object. Even with Truth Listener's ability, he almost didn't see it. After falling to the ground, he searched for a while before finding the tiny dot. He hurriedly took out his phone and snapped a picture of the purple dot. Primordial spore, mythical life providence, eternal immortality life soul, parasitic spirit wheel of destiny, soul parasitic strength, 41 speed, 41 constitution, 41 essence energy, 41 talent skill, parasitic companion form. None without a doubt, this was the weakest mythical companion beast Zhou had ever seen. If one only looked at its stats, it was horribly weak. However, such companion beasts weren't meant for combat. Their effects might be even more terrifying than combat-type companion beasts. He directly hatched the primordial spore, expending very little essence energy. It was about the same as the essence energy consumed by an epic companion beast. Thankfully, as its owner, Zhou could sense such a small companion beast location. Otherwise, he wouldn't have known where it was with just his eyes. After giving it a try, he used primordial spore to kill the ordinary spores. Although it was feasible, primordial spore's combat strength wasn't strong. It wasn't as fast as Zhou's fireball, nor was it as fast as Tai Sui's devouring. Tai Sui jumped around the encampment, devouring countless spores. Its body had clearly grown larger, and the spores in the encampment had decreased significantly. Zhou kept using Truth Listener to search, hoping to find another primordial spore, but he was somewhat disappointed. He didn't find a second one. Young Master One, why are you out? The situation outside is terrible. You shouldn't have come out. And Sheng came to the clearing. Qin Wufu and Lung Zongjing, as well as the military generals and college tutors, came with him. However, apart from Sheng and Lung Zongjing, all of them had mushrooms on their faces. They looked very terrifying. Even Deputy Governor Qin has fallen for it. Zhou saw a golden mushroom on Qin Wufu's face. It was likely an epic golden spore that had parasitized his face. Although Shang's body was stained with quite a number of spores, for some reason, they didn't drill into his body. Lung Zongjing didn't have any spores on him. His body seemed to be protected by an invisible force, preventing all the spores from approaching his body. It's not difficult to clear the spores in the encampment. However, I still need to think of another way to deal with the spores that have already parasitized them. Lung Zongjing looked at the mushroom in the encampment and summoned his demonic organ throne. Chapter 672. Lung Zongjing's slender fingers pressed on the keys as the demonic organ throne immediately emitted a magical sound. The sound was solemn and had a sacredness that other musical instruments didn't have. Invisible ripples spread out in the encampment. Zhou was surprised to discover that with the music, the invisible spores were like soldiers who had received orders to assemble as they gathered in front of the demonic organ throne. Originally, the spores were invisible, but now that there were too many of them, as more and more spores gathered together, one could gradually see a faint white fog. The fog became thicker and soon, one could see it more clearly. Tai Sui didn't eat many spores by jumping around, but now that the spores had gathered in an area, it became excited. It jumped around in the white fog formed by the spores and devoured a large number of spores. Its body also grew larger bit by bit. The zither music continued as a large number of spores gathered in one spot and gradually turned corporeal. They looked like snowflakes. Finally, the snowflakes condensed together, turning into a white ball that looked like a ball of cotton candy. Tai Sui jumped over and swallowed the cotton candy-like spore lord in a few moves. It was unknown how many spores it had eaten. There was no way to estimate the number. Zhou vaguely felt a thought from Tai Sui as though it was about to evolve. He hurriedly summoned it back. Lung Zongjing didn't stop Tai Sui from devouring the spores. All he did was glance at Zhou before saying to Ensheng, "The mushrooms in the encampment have to be burned. Don't leave any behind to ensure that there are no latent dangers." "Yes, I'll do it now." Ensheng accepted the order and left with his men to clear the mushrooms in the encampment. "Chancellor, the mushrooms in the encampment are easy to deal with, but what about the soldiers?" Qin Wufu asked worriedly. Lung Zongjing said, "If these spores don't parasitize a body, it's not difficult to remove them. However, once they are parasitized, they will become a part of the body, just like the flesh and blood on the body. Even if the flesh and blood are cut off, the body's self-healing ability will still allow the flesh and blood to grow again. It's very difficult to eradicate them." When Qin Wufu and company heard that, they revealed looks of worry. "You, follow me," Lung Zongjing suddenly said to Zhou before he left. "It can't be. Chancellor Lung can't be so petty as to blame Tai Sui for eating those spores, right?" Zhou followed Lung Zongjing to his office, feeling somewhat depressed. "Take a seat." Lung Zongjing's office was a little different from an ordinary principal's office. Rather than an office, it was more like a tea room. "Chancellor Lung, it was my fault for letting my companion beast eat those spores without your consent." Zhou admitted his mistake first to prevent Lung Zongjing from lecturing him again. However, Lung Zongjing didn't mention this matter. He sat in front of the tea table and brewed tea as he said, "Do you hate me for snatching the companion egg?" Zhou shook his head and said, "Principal, you were the one who locked onto the prey first. It's only right for you to take the companion egg. Why would I have such thoughts?" Zhou did think so. From the beginning, Lung Zongjing had attacked the thousand-handed bullhead first. He wanted to take advantage of it, but Lung Zongjing ended up taking advantage of it. There was nothing much to say about it. He could only blame himself for not being fast enough. Lung Zongjing smiled when he heard Zhou say that. He placed a cup of brewed tea in front of Zhou and continued, "Do you know the origins of that golden bull?" Zhou only knew that the bull was called the Great Might Vajra Bull. As for its origins, he really didn't know anything about it. All he could do was shake his head. The thousand-armed body of the golden bull was an imitation of the Great Might Vajra statue. The Great Might Vajra is a guardian of the Tantric Buddhism. It can subdue devils, so it's called Great Might. It has the merit of protecting the good, so it's also called great virtue. There are also titles like Yamadega, fearful Vajra, and ox-headed wisdom king. In the past, it was believed that the great might Vajra was the angry form of Manjushri Bodhisattva, so it had great might and terrifying power, Lung Zongjing said as he put down the teacup. In that case, that golden bull is the true body of the great might Vajra? Zhou Wen said in surprise. He never expected the golden bull to have such a background. However, Lung Zongjing said with a smile, if it's the real great might Vajra, it wouldn't have been killed by you so easily. At most, it can only be considered an avatar. Zhou Wen thought to himself, it's no wonder the golden bull is called the great might Vajra bull. So it's related to the great might Vajra. However, why is Chancellor Lung telling me this? As though he had seen through Zhou Wen's thoughts, Lung Zongjing took out an item from the drawer beside him and placed it on the table. It was the great might Vajra bull companion egg. However, the current great might Vajra bull companion egg was somewhat different from before. There were thin lines drawn on it that crisscrossed. It looked like a magic array that was relatively popular in the West District, but some symbols looked like something from Tantric Buddhism. They emitted strange energy fluctuations. I've already processed this companion egg. Even if it's at the epic stage, it can be incubated. Do you want it? Lung Zongjing said to Zhou Wan with a faint smile. Chancellor, would you believe me if I said I don't want it? Zhou Wan asked. Lung Zongjing smiled. Since you want it, take it. Are you really giving it to me? Zhou Wan felt that there was no such good thing in the world. Who would be so kind as to pay such a huge price to process the mythical companion egg before giving it to him? Lung Zongjing said, I'm afraid the problem in Dragon Gate Grotto can't be resolved outside. In the end, we can only enter. That's a Buddhist land. When the time comes, this companion egg will definitely be of great use. It might be able to save lives, so the person who has it has to enter Dragon Gate Grotto. You also contributed to its birth, so I'm the first to ask you. If you go, just take it and incubate it. If you don't go, I hope you can leave it for someone else. Zhou Wan was somewhat hesitant when he heard that. He naturally wanted the great might Vajra bull, but Dragon Gate Grotto was extremely dangerous. If he entered during this period of time, something ominous would definitely happen. Lung Zongjing didn't rush him or say anything. All he did was drink his tea and wait for Zhou Wen's decision. If I don't go, will this companion egg be used by you? Zhou Wan asked after some thought. Lung Zongjing shook his head. I still have other things to do. I don't have the time to control it. Then who do you plan on finding? Zhou Wan asked again. If you don't want it, the next person to receive it should be Tianzhua. I don't think he will reject it, Lung Zongjing said. All right, I'll go. Although Zhou Wan already had some guesses, he couldn't help but feel excited when he heard that the companion egg might be obtained by Tianzhua. After some thought, he agreed to enter Dragon Gate Grotto. Take the companion egg. Hatch it as soon as possible. The opportunity to enter Dragon Gate Grotto should be in the next few days, Lung Zongjing said with a smile. Chapter 673. Zhou Wan returned to his dorm with the great might Vajra bull companion egg. Just as he was considering entering Dragon Gate Grotto, he was given a fright when he saw Feng Qiuyan in the tent. There were 2 mushrooms growing on Feng Qiuyan's face. Why are there mushrooms on your face? Zhou Wan asked in puzzlement. Before he left, he had already gotten Tai Sui to clean up the spores in the tent. After closing the tent tightly, logically speaking, there shouldn't be any more problems. Feng Qiuyan said with a smile, It's fine. I was just curious and opened the tent's door to see the situation outside. Who knew that I would fall for it? However, it's not a big deal. There should be a way to resolve it. Of course it's fine. The military experts and the school's tutors are studying those parasitic spores, but they haven't found a way to eradicate those mushrooms. Do you know that many soldiers have already fainted because of those mushrooms? It's very likely that they will never wake up like vegetables. Zhou Wan was somewhat anxious. Then what should we do? I originally thought that Brother Sheng was fine when he came. We just wanted to take a look outside and didn't go out. I thought that nothing would happen, but who knew that little Yin Yin would fall for it? Li Xian said gloomily. Are you fine? Zhou Wan sized up Li Xian. Since Feng Shuoyan had fallen for it, it was impossible for only 2 spores to flow in. It was somewhat strange that Li Xian hadn't fallen for it. It's probably because I'm wearing the carapace. There aren't any mushrooms, Li Xian said. That's very possible. Zhou nodded slightly. It's fine. With so many tutors and military experts studying it day and night, it's only a matter of time before a treatment is developed. Feng Shuoyan comforted them. Zhou thought for a moment and said to Feng Shuoyan, I have a method that I can give a try, but I can't guarantee that it will be effective. It might also be completely useless. Do you want to give it a try? Feng Shuoyan didn't ask Zhou what method it was and directly said, Coach, feel free to give it a try. It's best if it works, but it's fine if it doesn't. Zhou didn't stand on ceremony as he summoned Dr. Darkness and got him to use fight poison with poison to inject some poison into the mushroom. However, the mushroom quickly withered and fell off before long. Zhou and company waited for a while and were overjoyed to see that no more mushrooms grew from the wound on Feng Shuoyan's face. In Lung Zongjing's office, and Tianzhua had arrived at some point in time. He sat at the tea table and brewed tea for Lung Zongjing, and Sheng stood silently by the side. And Tianzhua held the teacup in front of Lung Zong with both hands and said, Teacher, isn't it a little too hasty for you to give the great Might Vajra bull companion egg to Zhou Wen? Lung Zongjing smiled and said, I've already seen some of his abilities. You should be able to control the great Might Vajra bull. Teacher, you think too highly of him. Although he does have some talent and his luck isn't bad, allowing him to obtain some mythical companion beasts, he's still a student after all. His experience and mentality aren't mature enough. He hasn't experienced much, so I'm afraid he won't be able to deal with an unknown crisis. Instead, he will become a burden to us, and Tianzhua said. I remember that when you were his age, you had already led the Sunset Army into battle and fought in many dimensional zones, right? In that case, he's not young anymore, Lung Zongjing said as he drank his tea. How can that be the same? I've been honed since I was young. I've experienced countless life and death situations, but he hasn't experienced any setbacks. It's not reliable for him to do this. Why don't you reconsider? And Tianzhua said. Lung Zongjing smiled at Tianzhua and said, Are you afraid that he won't do well, or are you afraid that he will be in danger? Of course I'm afraid that he won't do well and implicate us. And Tianzhua immediately answered, So that's how it is. Then it's fine. Even if he can't help much, controlling the great Might Vajra bull won't be a problem. As for whether he will die inside, you don't care anyway, so there's no need to consider it. Lung Zongjing said with narrowed eyes as he held the teacup with both hands and drank his tea. Teacher, you should have heard that the Empress Dowager pampers him very much. If he dies inside, I don't mind, but I'm afraid that she won't agree. When the time comes, not only will I have a headache, but you will also have a headache, right? And Tianzhua said, So that's how it is. Lung Zongjing looked enlightened as he took a sip of tea and said, However, I think Zhou has plenty of combat experience. His adaptability isn't bad, and his companion beasts are relatively complete. With the protection of the great Might Vajra bull, there shouldn't be too much of a problem. Just as Tianzhua was about to say something, a soldier reported, Overseer, there's news from the Research Institute. The problem of the parasitic spores has been resolved. And Tianzhua was overjoyed when he heard that. He stood up and asked, Good, that's great. Which expert or tutor came up with the solution? Although the parasitic spores were very weak, the effects they caused gave, even Tianzhua, a headache. If it wasn't resolved in time, the Sunset Army and the college would suffer a heavy blow. The soldier answered, The news from there says that a student's companion beast can restrain the parasitic spores. The unconscious soldier he helped has already woken up. The mushrooms have automatically fallen off and stopped growing. Currently, that student is removing the parasitic spores from the soldiers and tutors. Student? And Tianzhua frowned slightly. Lung Zongjing asked with a smile, What's the student's name? His name is Zhou Wen. He's the one who charged into the dimensional creature horde yesterday to kill the golden bull. The soldier immediately answered. Lung Zongjing turned to look at Tianzhua and said, What did I say? This Zhou Wen is still all right. He saw the problem that so many people can't resolve. If you say he's not suitable, who else is more suitable? Zhou, when used Dr. Darkness to remove the parasitic spores from their bodies. Dr. Darkness's fight poison with poison was indeed useful. As long as it was injected into the spores would quickly die and not relapse. Little one, well done. Qin Wufu was the last to receive Zhou Wen's treatment. He patted Zhou Wen on the shoulder and said, "Think about it again. Come to me after graduation. You can set any conditions. There's still a long time before graduation." "I haven't considered such matters," Zhou Wen said. "It's time to consider it carefully. The situation across the Federation isn't good. I wonder how many more years we can last," Qin Wufu said with a sigh. After working for more than a day, he finally removed all the spores that parasitize people. When Zhou Wen returned to the tent, he wanted to take out the great Might Vajra Bull companion egg and hatch it. To his surprise, he realized that Tai Sui had completed its evolution. He hurriedly summoned it to see what changes it had undergone. Chapter 674. Tai Sui was still fair and tender. Looking at its size, the portion that had grown from eating had slimmed down again and returned to its original appearance. It didn't look any different from when it was at the mortal stage, so Zhou Wen had no choice but to read its information. Tai Sui, Epic Evolvable, Life Providence, Fate Offends Tai Sui Life Soul, 12 Tai Sui God Strength, 41 Speed, 41 Constitution, 41 Essence Energy, 41 Talent Skill, Earth Escape Companion Form. Mimicry. After Zhou Wen read the stats, his expression turned odd. Everyone in the East District probably knew a thing or two about Fate Offends Tai Sui. It meant that he was going to be unlucky. As for the 12 Tai Sui gods, Zhou Wen had never heard of them. He carefully read the information on the Life Providence and Life Soul. Fate Offends Tai Sui. Life clashes with Tai Sui. 12 Tai Sui gods. The 12 heavenly cycle Tai Sui gods. Although he didn't understand it, Zhou Wen already felt that it was definitely not a lucky life providence. What good could happen if one's life clashed with Tai Sui? If I had known this would happen, I might as well not have evolved. Zhou Wen was somewhat speechless as he hurriedly put away Tai Sui. He was afraid that he would be in trouble if he clashed with it. Zhou Wen was momentarily at a loss as to how to deal with Tai Sui. He couldn't bear to part with it if he fused it. This was an existence that could advance to the mythical stage in the future. What was even rarer was that this fellow had an extremely strong restraining effect on microscopic dimensional creatures. When it was at the mortal stage, it could kill a mythical primordial spore. It would probably be difficult to find a second such companion beast. Let's wait and see. If I'm really that unlucky, I'll think of a way to deal with it. After some thought, Zhou Wen decided to stay. After putting away Tai Sui, Zhou Wen held the great Might Vajra Bull companion egg and carefully sized it up. He saw many mysterious magic formations and incantations on it. Furthermore, the magic formations and incantations emitted intense essence energy fluctuations. Clearly, someone had used a strange power to inject essence energy into the magic formations and incantations. With the essence energy stored ahead of time, the difficulty of incubating it would be greatly reduced. To be able to complete such a feat was probably impossible for ordinary epic creatures. Zhou Wen studied it for a long time, but he couldn't tell how the magic circles and incantations had been placed there. It was as though they had entered deep into the companion egg. Such an ingenious technique is like a precious treasure to ordinary epic creatures, but it's useless against me. Even without the essence energy injected in advance, I can still incubate a mythical companion egg. Zhou Wen attempted to inject his essence energy to incubate the great Might Vajra Bull. The essence energy didn't directly enter the companion egg. Instead, it circulated along the magic formation and incantation before entering the companion egg. Apart from the essence energy stored in advance as support, it could also slow down the speed at which the mythical companion egg absorbed essence energy. The entire process was very smooth. Even an ordinary epic rank monster should be able to hatch with the help of such a magic array and incantation. I wonder if this technique is easy to learn. If I can learn it, it'll be a good way to earn money. There will definitely be many people willing to pay to incubate high-level companion beasts, Zhou thought. Unbeknownst to Zhou, the difficulty of using such a method was extremely high. There were less than 10 people in the entire Federation who could use such a technique. Furthermore, engraving the magic array and incantations on it required a large amount of precious resources. Unless it was a mythical companion egg, ordinary companion eggs weren't worth paying such a huge price to incubate. Back when Sheng hatched Love Letter, he couldn't bear to use such a method. He had to find a dimensional zone with abundant essence energy and use the special essence energy environment in the dimensional zone. With the help of some essence energy crystals and mystic techniques, he hatched the plot. Great Might Vajra Bull, Mythical Life Providence, Utmost Might and Strength Life Soul, Bull-Headed Wisdom King Wheel of Destiny, Soul Suppression Bell Strength, 80 Speed, 78 Constitution, 80 Essence Energy, 80 Talent Skill, Great Might Divine Horn, Wrath of Thunder, Indestructible Vajra, Buddha Flame's companion form. Mount, the skills and stats were very strong. Furthermore, it had 4 skills. It looked pretty good. It had all the required abilities. The Golden Bell was the Great Might Vajra Bull's Wheel of Destiny. This was the skill that Zhou valued the most. However, what's with this mount? This was the first time Zhou had seen a companion beast that was a mount in its companion form. He imagined that a mount was just an ordinary companion beast form. Let's see how different this mount is from riding it normally. Zhou took out his phone and entered the game dungeon before summoning the Great Might Vajra Bull. Soon, Zhou realized that the Great Might Vajra Bull in its mount form was indeed somewhat different. Usually, when Zhou rode six-winged, he needed to give it orders. However, the Great Might Vajra Bull in its mount form didn't need Zhou's commands at all. It was as though it had become Zhou's hands and feet. It could move according to his wishes. The only difference from his own limbs was that the Great Might Vajra Bull didn't grow on his body. A professional mount is indeed different. Zhou finally understood what it meant to be one with one's steed. His riding skill of being one with the bull was not bad. At the very least, it was much more comfortable than riding six-winged. If there was any weakness of the Great Might Vajra Bull, it was that it couldn't fly. It was indeed extremely powerful on the ground, but it couldn't fly or enter the water. However, it doesn't matter. After all, the skill I need the most is the Soul Suppression Bell of the Great Might Vajra Bull. The other skills are secondary. Zhou took the Great Might Vajra Bull to the Qiangqi Temple. The moment Qiangqi appeared, the Great Might Vajra Bull used the Soul Suppression Bell, causing Qiangqi to instantly feel dizzy. Zhou's Golden Overlord Sword slashed over, severely injuring Qiangqi. Following that, it was a one-sided slaughter. Soon, Qiangqi was slain. It feels great. A real man should ride an ox. Zhou felt extremely delighted. Killing monsters like this was much easier than risking his life. Since he had nothing to do, Zhou summoned Primordial Spore to see how useful it was. As Primordial Spore's stats were too poor, Zhou didn't dare take it directly to find mythical creatures. Instead, he went to the bat cave to find poison bats to experiment. Primordial Spore slowly floated towards the top of the cave. The poison bats hanging upside down at the top didn't realize the impending danger. They didn't have the ability to discover a tiny existence like Primordial Spore, so they didn't know that danger was approaching them. Primordial Spore landed on the head of a poison bat. The poison bat didn't notice its existence at all as Primordial Spore vanished in the blink of an eye. Zhou originally imagined that Primordial Spore would grow a tiny mushroom on the poison bat's head like ordinary spores, but nothing happened. The poison bat suddenly opened its eyes, but its gaze turned somewhat strange. It flapped its wings and walked towards Zhou. Chapter 675. Could it be? Zhou was delighted when he saw the poison bat fly over. Indeed, The poison bat flew in front of Zhou and circled around him. Zhou could sense the primordial spore's thoughts in the poison bat's brain. With a thought, Zhou issued an order to primordial spore. The poison bat flew up according to Zhou's instructions and charged towards the poison bat swarm, engaging the other poison bats in battle. The other poison bats were baffled and didn't know what was going on. The poison bats, controlled by primordial spore, killed a few of them before they were killed by the other poison bats. After the poison bat died, primordial spore floated out and slowly returned to Zhou's side. Zhou was alarmed when he saw this, but he was pleasantly surprised. Is this soul parasitism? This fellow can actually control other dimensional creatures through parasitism. Can it control mythical creatures? Zhou couldn't wait to give a try. He went to the Torch Dragon Temple, hoping to see if he could let primordial spore parasitize and control Torch Dragon. Unfortunately, Torch Dragon's eyesight was too strong. It immediately discovered primordial spore and didn't give a chance. It used Bright Torch Vision World and sucked primordial spore into the Vision World. It seems like it's still a little difficult to parasitize the Torch Dragon. I'll try it on someone with poor eyesight. Zhou went to the Metalwork Temple to see if he could parasitize the Golden Battle God Halberd, but it didn't have any good effects. The primordial spore couldn't burrow into the Golden Battle God Halberd's body. Although it wasn't killed by the Golden Battle God Halberd, it failed to successfully parasitize it. From the looks of it, primordial spore can only parasitize animals or plant-type dimensional creatures. Zhou's heart stirred as he took it to the underground sea to test it out with the 9 black dragons. This time, primordial spore successfully entered a black dragon's body. However, the black dragon was clearly too strong. Primordial spore was unable to control it in a short period of time. It only took root in the black dragon's head, and it was unknown when it would be able to completely control it. From the feedback from primordial spore, it should not be completed in just a few days. Primordial spore's ability isn't bad, but it looks like it takes too long to control a mythical creature. It's not practical in-game. Zhou had to respawn dungeons every day, so it was impossible for him to let primordial spore slowly parasitize him. Although it's not very useful in-game, in reality, if I can let primordial spore parasitize and control a powerful dimensional creature, wouldn't I have an extremely powerful fighter? Who should I let it parasitize? There are many terrifying dimensional creatures in Dragon Gate Grotto now. Why don't I find an opportunity here? Zhou secretly thought about how to use primordial spore to maximize his benefits. For the next few days, many strange dimensional creatures rushed out of Dragon Gate Grotto. Although many dimensional creatures were ferocious, the damage they caused wasn't as great as the parasitic spores. Sometimes, powerful dimensional creatures weren't as terrifying as weak spores. As Zhou had treated almost every soldier and officer, the soldiers and officers were very respectful to him when he delivered the supplies. Because of the previous battle, Li Xian and Feng Shuyan had left their names in the Sunset Army and obtained the respect of the soldiers and officers. Although the dimensional creatures that rushed out of Dragon Gate Grotto had been wiped out, the situation didn't improve. The monk-robed skeleton in the mountain temple's golden robe became even more resplendent. Even at night, it illuminated the entire Dragon Gate Grotto in a resplendent manner. The river beside Dragon Gate Grotto hadn't been peaceful in the past few days. The temperature of the river had become extremely high. In the beginning, it was only emitting white steam, but in the past 2 days, it had begun to boil. The fish and prawns inside had already died and were cooked, floating on the river's surface. No one dared to fish for the fish and prawns. In the end, the fish and prawns were cooked and sank into the water. What's the origin of the monk-robed skeleton in the mountain seal? Do you think the anomaly in Dragon Gate Grotto is because of the monk-robed skeleton? After Li Xian and Zhou, when finished moving the supplies, they stood by the river's defense line and looked towards Dragon Gate Grotto. All they saw was golden light enveloping the entire Dragon Gate Grotto, and the source of the golden light was the monk-robed skeleton. It's possible. Zhou also felt that it was possible. However, up to now, no one could explain the source of the anomaly in Dragon Gate Grotto. Ever since Long Zongjing had a private conversation with Zhou Wen, he hadn't looked for him again, so Zhou Wen didn't know much. There was one thing that concerned Zhou Wen. For so many days, the golden bird that lived above Dragon Gate Grotto hadn't revealed itself. It was unknown what it was waiting for. Boom! Boom! Just as the two of them were watching Dragon Gate Grotto, a terrifying sound suddenly came from the other side of the riverbank. The ground seemed to tremble with the sound. The river also produced ripples due to the shock. The ripples pushed forward and finally produced waves. Zhou Wen and Li Xian looked in the direction of the sound and saw an extremely huge white elephant walking along the riverbank under the moonlight. From the direction it was heading, it was likely heading for Dragon Gate Grotto. What a huge white elephant! Where did this fellow come from? Li Xian said in surprise. The white elephant was indeed huge. An ordinary elephant probably wasn't even as tall as its legs. Not only was its body huge, but it also emitted a strange glow as though it was bathed in holy light. Its pair of ivory tusks were pure and white, as though they were made of jade. The white elephant walked over step by step. With every step it took, it would leave a huge hoof print on the ground, causing the ground to tremble incessantly. The houses in the encampment seemed to shake. The white elephant was clearly not a dimensional creature from Dragon Gate Grotto. It walked to the opposite side of Dragon Gate Grotto and stepped into the river. It looked like it wanted to cross the river and enter Dragon Gate Grotto. The river water was boiling and the temperature was extremely high. However, the white elephant didn't seem to notice it. With a step in, the river water overflowed in all directions. Long Zongjing and Qianzhua, Qin Wufu, and company had already come out and were watching the white elephant's movements. When the soldiers guarding the defense line saw that the white elephant wasn't heading towards the encampment, they couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. The pressure the white elephant gave them was just too strong. Wherever the elephant passed, the river water would move to the sides. The mite left one shuddering in fear. Just as the white elephant had reached the middle of the river, it suddenly saw a black claw that resembled a claw reach out from the river beside it and grab at the white elephant. Chapter 676. The white elephant didn't seem to notice the black claw as it continued walking forward. However, when the black claw touched its body, it emitted white smoke. Like charcoal encountering water, the black claw immediately retreated into the river. The white elephant acted as though nothing had happened as it continued walking towards Dragon Gate Grotto. It was as though Dragon Gate Grotto was the only goal in its eyes. The black claw didn't appear again when the white elephant stepped onto the riverbank. When it broke through the water and came ashore, the water droplets on its body automatically slid off without being stained by a speck of dust. Zhou Wen and company watched helplessly as the white elephant walked towards Dragon Gate Grotto and headed for the mountain temple. Li Xian looked at wherein Tianzhua and company were. Seeing that they were only watching from a high vantage point without giving any orders, he turned back to look at the white elephant. The white elephant walked on the mountain rocks. Wherever its huge hooves passed, the rocks crumbled, leaving behind huge hoof prints. The dimensional creatures in Dragon Gate Grotto didn't dare approach the white elephant. All of them hid in the cave, trembling, not daring to walk out of the grotto. The white elephant walked all the way to the mountain temple before stopping to look at the monk-robed skeleton that emitted a resplendent golden light. It raised its nose and let out an elephant's roar. "No good. Quickly cover your ears." Zhou Wen roared at Li Xian. However, it was already a little too late. Everyone was grateful for the thunderous roar in their ears. It left their brains buzzing. The soldiers with weaker cultivation levels had already fallen to the ground. Even the epic officers saw stars. "Help! Help me! Why do I feel like there's gold ingots in front of me?" Li Xian's body swayed as though he was drunk. Zhou Wen was fine as he hurriedly supported him. After a while, Li Xian, the epic officers, and tutors came to their senses. As for the soldiers, they were still lying on the ground, unable to stand up as though they were drunk. When Zhou Wen looked at the mountain temple, he saw that the white elephant had already stepped through the temple door. Just as it stepped through the temple door, the golden light on the monk-robed skeleton suddenly became as intense as the sun. The golden light shone on the white elephant's body, causing its body to sway. The white elephant paused, but it quickly walked towards the monk-robed skeleton again. Under the terrifying suppression of the golden light, it was extremely difficult for the white elephant to take a step forward. However, it had no intention of giving up. It continued walking towards the monk-robed skeleton. The closer it got to the skeleton, the slower its speed became. When he was only a few steps away from the monk-robed skeleton, every step he took was as heavy as a mountain. Finally, the white elephant walked in front of the monk-robed skeleton. Just as Zhou was guessing what it was going to do, he saw it suddenly raise its trunk like a huge pillar as it swept towards the monk-robed skeleton with a terrifying holy glow. "It wants to destroy that monk's remains?" Li Xian said in surprise. Just as he finished speaking, the elephant's trunk had already smashed into the monk-robed skeleton. But the monk-robed skeleton wasn't smashed into pieces. It was still sitting cross-legged there. One of his skeleton hands actually raised and grabbed the big white elephant's nose. In the next moment, everyone saw an inconceivable scene. The monk-robed skeleton raised its hand, and the huge white elephant's body was easily flung away by it. Under the horrified gazes of Zhou, Wan, and company, the massive elephant fell into the river below Dragon Gate Grotto. Boom! The river water spewed out hundreds of feet as the white elephant's body smashed into the river, creating a huge crater at the bottom. Instantly, the water level on the riverbank rose, almost reaching the encampment. That monk-robed skeleton is alive. He only used one hand to fling that incomparably terrifying white elephant away? What kind of strange strength is this? Li Xian said in shock. Zhou was also alarmed and puzzled. Such a massive and powerful white elephant had been easily thrown away. Such divine strength was probably something only Tyrant Behemoth could achieve when it used absolute strength. However, no matter how Zhou looked at it, the monk-robed skeleton didn't look like it had an ability like absolute strength. What's his background? Why did the white elephant attack him? Zhou sized up the monk-robed skeleton in bewilderment. His bones were crystalline as they emitted a powerful golden glow, like the golden body of Buddha. Although his monk robes were tattered, they couldn't conceal the Buddhistic glow around him. He sat cross-legged with a stone door behind him. There were no words or flowers on the door, and behind it was an extremely simple square stone hut. The stone hut was less than 2 meters tall, and the stone door was even shorter. The monk-robed skeleton was sitting in front of the door, and the door was only about 20 to 30 centimeters taller than him. Ordinary adults would probably have to bend their backs to enter. Could it be that there's something odd about the stone hut behind the monk-robed skeleton? Just as Zhou was guessing, he heard a tumultuous sound. Turning his head, he saw the huge white elephant fighting a similarly huge black creature in the river. As the river churned, Zhou finally saw what the black object was. What a huge tortoise! Such a huge tortoise must have lived for hundreds of thousands of years. Killing it and stewing it into soup will definitely be very nourishing, Li Xian shouted with widened eyes. The black creature was actually a huge tortoise. Its entire body was black, and its carapace was like black iron. Its body wasn't much smaller than the huge white elephant. It fought the huge white elephant in the river, biting the huge white elephant's neck without letting go. The huge white elephant couldn't shake it off no matter how hard it tried. Its holy flesh and blood couldn't block its teeth. Blood gushed out from the bite, dyeing the river red. The terrifying power on the huge white elephant's body kept erupting, but it couldn't do anything to the tortoise. The tortoise's carapace was just too hard. Even the huge white elephant's strength couldn't shatter the turtle shell. Just as the holy light on the huge white elephant's body was weakening and it was about to be dragged to death by the tortoise in the river, it suddenly heard a bird's cry resound. A golden beam of light descended from the sky. It was the giant golden bird. It tore through the air like lightning, and a pair of bird claws grabbed the tortoise's turtle shell. It actually pierced through the black, iron-like turtle shell, causing the tortoise to loosen its jaws in pain. However, the golden bird didn't stop. With a flap of its wings, it brought the tortoise into the sky. It brandished its sharp claws and tore the tortoise into pieces in the blink of an eye. Blood splattered across the sky. Everyone in the encampment was dumbfounded. The ferocity of the golden bird was truly terrifying. This giant bird's strength is probably comparable to Tyrant Behemoth. Zhou was also alarmed. Only now did he know how impressive it was for Lung Zongjing to make the golden bird retreat. Chapter 677. The tortoise's turtle shell was extremely hard, but it couldn't withstand the golden bird's sharp claws. In a moment, it was torn to pieces. Then, the golden bird tore its flesh apart in midair, killing it in the blink of an eye. It's too ferocious. I actually fought it before. I'm really lucky I didn't die. Zhou was secretly alarmed. Back then, he wasn't as strong as he was now. Of course, that time couldn't be considered a real battle. The golden bird's target wasn't him. Otherwise, Zhou wouldn't have escaped so easily. After the tortoise was killed by the golden bird, the white elephant finally crawled out of the river. Its wounds were also rapidly healing. The white elephant's strength was originally above the tortoise's, but had been thrown by the monk-robed skeleton. It had lost all its defenses, allowing the tortoise to take advantage of its weakness. After the golden bird tore the tortoise apart, it had no intention of touching the white elephant. With a flap of its wings, it shot into the clouds like a bolt of golden lightning, disappearing behind the mountaintop. After the white elephant's wounds healed, it charged at the monk-robed skeleton in the temple again. Its holy light surged crazily, but could only barely walk close to the monk-robed skeleton. As it was already heavily injured, it didn't even have the ability to walk in front of the monk-robed skeleton to attack it. After persisting for a long time, the white elephant's strength slowly dissipated as it resisted the golden light. Finally, it couldn't withstand the impact of the golden light. As though it had been struck by a torrent, its massive body rolled down Dragon Gate Grotto and fell into the river, causing a huge wave. "That monk-robed skeleton is too powerful," Li Xian exclaimed. "Did you see that the monk-robed skeleton seems to be holding something in one hand?" Zhou would have been observing the monk-robed skeleton the entire time. He had previously thrown the white elephant out with one hand, but his other hand hadn't moved at all. It had always been blocked by the monk robe. Zhou saw that there seemed to be an abnormal protrusion there. Unfortunately, Truth Listener's ability was affected by the golden light, preventing him from hearing the situation around the monk-robed skeleton. Otherwise, he could know if there was anything in its hand. Li Xian used his life soul's insect eyes to look, but he only saw something. He couldn't tell what it was. Could the white elephant be risking its life for the item in its hand? Li Xian guessed. "I'm not sure yet. Let's wait and see." Zhou saw the huge white elephant crawl out again and pant by the river. However, it refused to give up. After resting for a while, it charged at the monk-robed skeleton in the temple for the third time. Li Xian said to Zhou, "If the white elephant falls again, its stamina will definitely be weaker. I wonder if we could take advantage of it." "I'm just afraid that the golden bird is in cahoots with the white elephant. You saw the outcome of that tortoise. If you're not afraid of death, feel free to give it a try." Zhou definitely wouldn't give it a try. He couldn't even test it with his pets. After all, it wasn't easy for him to obtain his mythical pets. Every one of them had blood and tears. His heart ached for any one of them. That's true. That golden bird is too terrifying. It's probably an existence that can fight Primordial Sword, Immortal, and Tyrant Behemoth. From its abilities, it seems to focus on speed and offensive strength. Could it be the legendary Golden Winged Rock? Li Xian guessed. It's very possible. Zhou also felt that the golden bird resembled the legendary Golden Winged Rock. As the two of them spoke, the white elephant rushed into the temple again and walked towards the monk-robed skeleton step by step. This time, the white elephant was different from before. Its pair of tusks lit up like two bright lamps that resisted the golden light. It made it much easier than the previous 2 times as it charged at the monk robe skeleton. However, Zhou realized that the white elephant's tusks were constantly being burned. Its strength seemed to be paid at the cost of burning the tusks. Finally, the white elephant charged in front of the monk robe skeleton under the glow produced by the burning tusks. It lowered its head and slammed the burning tusks at the monk robe skeleton. Before the tusks arrived, the force produced by the tusks' impact blew at the monk robes. Zhou had been paying attention to the monk-robed skeleton. As the monk robes fluttered in the wind, he saw the skeleton hand on its leg bone appear. In that hand was a golden crystal the size of an egg. It was slightly oval in shape. The moment the crystal was revealed, it immediately emitted a golden light, illuminating the entire mountain temple. Nothing could be seen. Even with Zhou and Li Xian's eyesight, they couldn't see anything. After a while, the golden light converged. When everyone saw the scene inside the mountain temple again, they widened their eyes in horror. The white elephant was still in front of the monk-robed skeleton. This time, it hadn't been thrown down, but the white elephant's flesh and organs had completely vanished. All that was left was a skeleton standing in front of the monk-robed skeleton. It still maintained a posture of lowering its head to slam into it. That was the last scene Zhou and company saw. A gust of wind blew past, and the huge skeleton suddenly scattered like flour. It landed on the ground and covered the mountain temple. Everyone felt a chill run down their backs as they broke out into a cold sweat. It was noon, but all of them felt cold all over. What was that bead just now? Li Xian stared at the monk-robed skeleton in the mountain temple. The monk robes landed again, concealing the bead. Now, nothing could be seen. I don't know, but there's a companion egg on the ground, Zhou said as he pointed at the mountain temple. In the bone powder that covered the ground, there was a white companion egg. It was half the height of a person, clearly left behind after the white elephant's death. A white elephant companion egg is good stuff, but who would dare enter to take it now? Although Li Xian's self-healing ability was very strong, he wasn't arrogant enough to believe that he could withstand such a terrifying golden light. Zhou's heart stirred. Although the white elephant wasn't considered a top mythical creature, it was still a mythical creature. I wonder if I can send an epic companion beast in to get the white elephant's companion egg out? Just as Zhou had this thought, someone had already done so. Among the epic experts sent by Luoyang's local wealthy families to participate in the battle, an epic expert summoned an epic immortal crane and flew into the mountain temple, hoping to get the companion egg out. However, just as the immortal crane flew into the mountain temple, its body came into contact with the golden light emitted by the monk-robed skeleton. It was immediately reduced to ashes and doomed. Everyone was alarmed. Only then did they realize that not everyone could enter the mountain temple. The white elephant could walk against the golden light in the mountain temple, but it didn't mean that they could. Thankfully, I didn't go. Li Xian broke out into a cold sweat. He really wanted to rush into the temple to get the white elephant companion egg. Chapter 678. No one dared to act rashly again. All they did was watch. Everyone wanted the white elephant companion egg, but no one dared to send a companion beast into the mountain temple. The death of the epic immortal crane was truly shocking. Although Zhou felt that his mythical companion beast should be able to withstand the golden light emitted by the monk-robed skeleton, he was afraid that the golden light from the crystal would erupt again. When that happened, even a mythical creature might not be able to withstand it. It was clearly too risky to sacrifice a mythical pet for a mythical companion egg and not necessarily be able to retrieve it. And Tianzhua and Long Zongjing didn't let their companion beasts enter the mountain temple. Clearly, they had the same qualms. After the dust settled and the two mythical dimensional creatures died, no one dared to enter the mountain temple to take the companion eggs. There were temporarily no new anomalies in Dragon Gate Grotto. Qin Wufu had already ordered the army to disperse and rest. The soldiers and officers returned to their positions. However, The epic experts from the wealthy families sized up the companion egg indignantly, trying to get it out. In the end, they lost several epic companion beasts and failed to enter the mountain temple. Zhou finally suppressed the urge in his heart and didn't let his mythical companion beast enter. Before figuring out the origins of the monk robe skeleton and the crystal, taking risks meant death. Young Masterwan, Chancellor Lung invites you over, and Sheng said as Zhou was loading the supplies. Zhou put down what he was doing and followed in Sheng to Lung Zongjing's office. When Zhou arrived, he realized that Tianzhua and Qin Wufu were there. Zhou pretended not to see Tianzhua and only greeted Lung Zongjing and Qin Wufu. Little Zhou, come and sit here. Qin Wufu warmly invited Zhou to sit down. Only then did Lung Zongjing say, "You saw what happened in the mountain temple. What do you think?" Qin Wufu said, "Chancellor, do you think the golden crystal in the monk robe skeleton's hand is the legendary relic? That's a possibility. However, relic is a Buddhist treasure. Logically speaking, it shouldn't have such destructive power," Lung Zongjing said. And Tianzhua thought for a moment and said, "I have an idea. Perhaps that monk robe skeleton isn't a dimensional creature from Dragon Gate Grotto." Explain in detail. Lung Zongjing gestured for Tianzhua to continue. And Tianzhua continued. When we saw him sitting cross-legged in monk robes, we imagined him to be a dimensional creature from Dragon Gate Grotto. However, the power he used, including that crystal, looked different from the Buddhist-type creatures I've seen before. Well said. Lung Zongjing nodded lightly. And Tianzhua added, "In my opinion, he's the same as the white elephant and the golden bird. They are all coveting the items in Dragon Gate Grotto's mountain temple. However, he entered earlier, so he occupied that place. The white elephant's target was not him, but the stone house behind him. Based on this, the thing that caused the anomaly in Dragon Gate Grotto is very likely in that stone house. Tianzhua's guess coincides with mine. The golden-winged bird and the monk robe skeleton are both top-notch mythical creatures. If we wish to achieve anything, I'm afraid we will inevitably have to compete with them. We need to make early preparations." After Lung Zongjing said that, he looked at Zhou and said, "When the time comes, you will enter the mountain temple with us. You have to be prepared to fight the golden-winged bird and the monk robe skeleton. If there's anything difficult, you have to tell me in advance." "Yes, I'll prepare well," Zhou answered. Lung Zongjing nodded and continued. "If the monk robe skeleton really isn't a dimensional creature from Dragon Gate Grotto, and it isn't Buddhist type, which do you think its power is most likely of?" Qin Wufu pondered for a moment and said, "I've seen quite a number of dimensional creatures over the years, but this is the first time I've seen such power." Seeing Lung Zongjing look at him, and Tianzhua shook his head and said, "I've never seen it before." Seeing that everyone had no idea what the monk robe skeleton's strength was, Lung Zongjing said, "In that case, let's begin our preparations by determining the strength attribute of the monk robe skeleton." Zhou listened to their discussion from the side, but he couldn't interrupt. After all, he was still too young. The dimensional zones and dimensional creatures he had come into contact with were limited, and his experience couldn't compare to the few people present. All he could do was listen to their discussion and gain quite a bit of knowledge. Lung Zongjing and company planned on using the most primitive and effective method to test what type of dimensional creature the monk robe skeleton was. The method was very simple. It was to use the principle of attributes reinforcing and restraining each other to send companion beasts of similar strength, but different types, into the mountain temple. Then, he could observe their reactions after being attacked by the golden light in the mountain temple. If they were mutually reinforcing or mutually restraining each other, there would definitely be some different reactions. They might die faster, or they might persevere for a longer period of time. Using these minute differences, they could roughly deduce the monk robe skeleton's type. Of course, this method had a prerequisite. Among the companion beasts used for the test, there had to be existences that could complement or restrain the monk robe skeleton. Otherwise, it would be useless. After the discussion, Sheng was in charge of the test mission. Zhou wasn't assigned any missions as he continued, making preparations. The test didn't go smoothly, and Sheng used 19 legendary companion beasts of different types for the test, but he didn't find anything abnormal. In the end, he felt that legendary companion beasts were too weak. Even if they had attributes that countered each other, it was difficult to show them. All he could do was use epic companion beasts for the second round of tests. The results of the second round of tests were the same. After sacrificing more than 10 epic companion beasts, he still failed to test the monk-robed skeleton stats. The only thing he could confirm was that the monk-robed skeleton wasn't Buddhist type. Zhou would have been thinking about how he could safely get the white elephant's companion egg out, so he was also studying the monk-robed skeleton stats. Unfortunately, as Dragon Gate Grotto didn't undergo any anomalies in-game, nor did the mountain temple or monk-robed skeleton appear, there was no way to test it in-game. After some thought, Zhou thought of a solution that wasn't really a solution. Primordial Spore's life providence was eternal indestructibility. Although its stats weren't strong, it wasn't easy to kill it. Even the Golden Overlord Sword's Golden Sword Aura, which had the augmentation of Unstoppable and Unstoppable, couldn't kill Primordial Spore. This showed how powerful the eternal indestructibility life providence was. At present, Zhou only knew of 2 skills that could directly kill Primordial Spore: Bright Torch Vision World and Tai Sui's talent. Therefore, Zhou thought of letting Primordial Spore enter the Mountain Temple to give it a try. Perhaps he could discover something. With his decision made, Zhou didn't hesitate any longer. He released Primordial Spore and let it slowly float towards a mountain temple. Chapter 679. Primordial Spore slowly floated across the river and headed for the mountain temple. Although there were many fairies and strong men wandering nearby, none of them could discover the existence of Primordial Spore. Zhou realized that using Primordial Spore to scout was extremely effective. Very few dimensional creatures could discover its existence. Primordial Spore arrived in front of the mountain temple without any obstructions. However, just as Primordial Spore entered the mountain temple, a problem occurred. This was because the entire mountain temple was enveloped by golden light. When Primordial Spore came into contact with the golden light, although it wasn't killed by the golden light like the epic companion beasts, it produced a glow when it clashed with the golden light. It was like a firefly that flashed. Although the light wasn't eye-catching, it made Primordial Spore lose its advantage of being invisible. Primordial Spore flew around in the golden light and quickly arrived beside the white elephant companion egg. Due to the existence of the eternal, indestructible life providence, it wasn't killed by the golden light. With him already exposed, it seemed too risky to let Primordial Spore fly towards the monk-robed skeleton. Zhou wasn't greedy either. He let Primordial Spore land on the white elephant's companion egg and then let Primordial Spore push the companion egg to see if it could push the companion egg out of the mountain temple. Primordial Spore's strength was very weak, but that was when compared to a mythical creature. At the very least, it had 41 strength. It was more than enough to push the white elephant companion egg. Now, Zhou was only somewhat worried. He didn't know if the monk-robed skeleton would interfere. Zhou constantly observed the monk-robed skeleton's movements. As long as he made any abnormal movements, Zhou would immediately let Primordial Spore escape and leave the companion egg behind. However, the monk-robed skeleton didn't react. Primordial Spore stuck to the white elephant companion egg and slowly pushed it out of the temple. Immediately, the soldiers monitoring the mountain temple discovered the phenomenon of the white elephant companion egg and immediately reported it to their superiors. Soon, in Tianzhua, Qin Wufu and company came out. Indeed, they saw the white elephant companion egg roll out of the mountain temple. What's going on? Why did the companion egg roll out by itself? Qin Wufu held his binoculars and said in surprise after looking at it for a while. This was because after leaving the mountain temple, Primordial Spore's body no longer produced light that resisted the golden light. Qin Wufu and company couldn't see primordial spore at all, and Tianzhuo was also a little puzzled. He ordered the soldiers, be on alert to prevent any accidents. After giving the order, and Tianzhuo carefully observed the companion egg, but he didn't see any problems. It was as though the companion egg had gained sentience and rolled down the mountain. The school's tutors and the epic experts from the wealthy families were also attracted over. Although they wanted the white elephant companion egg, they found it odd when they saw the white elephant companion egg roll out by itself. No one dared to snatch it from them. It's coming. It's coming towards the encampment. Someone realized that after the companion egg rolled down, it jumped into the river and slowly crossed the river before rolling to the shore and towards the encampment. Everyone, be careful. The soldiers, tutors, and epic experts were all on standby as they stared at the companion egg, as though they were facing a formidable enemy. And Tianzhuo and Lung Zongjing were also staring at the companion egg. Zhou would originally wanted to get the companion egg out, but he never expected it to cause such a huge commotion. It didn't seem right to take the companion egg in front of everyone. Zhou was still hesitating over what to do when the companion egg had already rolled to the encampment. The soldiers aimed their guns at it, as though they were waiting for the order to shoot crazily. The epic experts had already summoned their companion beasts. From the looks of it, they were prepared to fight. Sorry, it's fine. It's fine. Everyone, don't be nervous. It's here for me. Zhou could only bite the bullet and walk out. He raised his hands and waved at the soldiers, signaling them not to shoot. Everyone was taken aback when they heard him say that, and Tianzhuo's expression turned even odder. What do you mean it's here for me? In any case, and Tianzhuo and company found it odd. A companion egg had run down from the mountain temple to look for Zhou. Could it be that it had rested in the mountain temple for too long and wanted to go down the mountain to have a chat with Zhou? Wasn't this bullsh *T? Everyone stared at Zhou with odd expressions. The soldiers didn't put down their guns. The epic experts' companion beasts were still staring at the companion egg. Clearly, they couldn't believe Zhou's words. Zhou could only bite the bullet and wave at the companion egg. It's fine. I'll take it back now. Everyone, get back to work. When everyone saw the companion egg roll towards Zhou, they were filled with surprise. Could it be that something like a companion egg can find someone it knows? Many people had mixed expressions. Zhou picked up the companion egg and walked back. At that moment, and Tianzhuo waved his hand, gesturing for the soldiers to return to their positions. Only then did the soldiers lower their guns. From the looks of it, young master is quite popular. Even a companion egg will send itself to him, and Sheng said with a smile. And Tianzhuo said with a cold expression, it's just a small trick. With that said, he ignored everyone and returned to his office. This little Zhou is getting more and more interesting. Lung Zongjing smiled as he looked at Zhou before turning to leave. The matter of the companion egg going down the mountain to chat with Zhou immediately spread in the encampment. The more it spread, the more mysterious it became. You might not know, but that day was filled with cold winds. Countless heroes used all kinds of companion beasts, but none of them were able to retrieve the white elephant's companion egg from the mountain temple. It could be said that there were countless deaths and injuries. However, who would have thought that in the middle of the night, the white elephant's companion egg couldn't stand the loneliness and came down the mountain to chat with young Master Zhou. Speaking of young Master Zhou, he wasn't an ordinary person. In the Chess Mountain encampment, he has the reputation of Dr. Little Zhou. He cured Chess's strange illness. Now, at the Dragon Gate Grotto encampment, he has shown his prowess and eliminated the mushroom monsters that many famous experts were helpless against. A soldier who had seen Zhou, when he was stationed at Chess Mountain, was giving a vivid explanation to his colleagues who had missed due to their shifts. Do you know why young Master Zhou has so many magical abilities? To be honest, my third uncle's niece's second aunt's cousin and brother-in-law are the family's gardeners. According to his reliable sources, young Master is Madame Lan's son, the overseer's younger brother. If you ask me why young Master surname is Zhou and not In, I'll have to talk about a tragic past. You might not believe it, but the overseer and young master one are twins. Back then, when Madame Lawn gave birth, a powerful enemy attacked. After Madame Lawn gave birth to the overseer and young master one was snatched away by bad people. Ordinary soldiers didn't know about the family and the Zhou family. They only heard that Zhou one was Madame Lan's son. With some connections, the rumors became more and more mysterious. When the rumors reached Tianzui's ears, the corners of Tianzui's eyes twitched for a long time, but he didn't say a word. And Sheng stood by the side, not daring to say a word. His expression was solemn and his face was tense, but for some reason, he looked very uncomfortable. Chapter 680. Old Zhou, how did you do it? Li Xian widened his eyes as he looked at the companion egg that Zhou one had carried back. Feng Xiuyan also saw the companion egg descend the mountain to look for Zhou one. After some thought, he came to a realization. Coach, you must be proficient in egg language and can communicate with companion eggs, right? Zhou one was instantly rendered speechless. He could only explain, I used a miniature companion beast to push the companion egg down. Why would I know egg language? I see. Li Xian and Feng Qiuyan were immediately enlightened. Zhou one took the time to use his phone to look at the stats of the white elephant companion egg and realized that they were rather good. White elephant, mythical life providence, guardian elephant life soul, holy tooth wheel of fortune, holy guardian. Strength, 80 speed, 72 constitution, 79 essence energy, 80 talent skill, holy power augmentation, heavenly pillar strike, holy impact companion form, mount another mount. Zhou one was immediately depressed. He only had one, but so how could he ride two companion beasts at the same time? After some thought, Zhou one didn't store the white elephant into his phone, nor did he hatch it. The white elephant and the great might Vajra bull were considered the same type of companion beast. Furthermore, its stats were inferior to the great might Vajra bulls. Even if it hatched, it wouldn't be of much use to Zhou one. As for using it as an ordinary companion beast, Zhou one felt that there was no need. Now that he had the ability to grind mythical companion eggs, there would definitely be many mythical companion beasts with such stats in the future. As for those mythical companion eggs, there was no way he could sell them. Why don't I sell or exchange this white elephant companion egg? After all, I have no use for it. Zhou one thought for a moment and realized that it wasn't appropriate to sell it. Mythical companion beasts were now rare resources. There were probably only about 100 in the entire Federation. It was no longer something that money could measure. Furthermore, it was useless for Zhou one to have so much money. He didn't have a high pursuit of material things. Old Zhou, your luck is way too good. How old are you? You've already obtained another mythical companion beast. I reckon the old fellows of the 6 families don't have as many mythical companion beasts as you, Li Xian said enviously. If you want it, you can pay to take it away, Zhou one said. For real? Li Xian was slightly taken aback, never expecting Zhou one to say that. Of course it's true. I'm short on money, so you can't skimp on the price. Zhou one felt that it wasn't bad to get Li Xian a mythical companion beast. I appreciate your kind intentions, but I can't take this companion egg. My first mythical companion egg has to be personally produced, Li Xian said very seriously. Qiuyan, what about you? Are you interested? Zhou one asked. The white elephant isn't suitable for me. Feng Qiuyan was even more direct. Zhou one was depressed. He wanted to give the companion egg away, but no one wanted it. If you aren't interested, I'll get in Sheng to help me sell it, Zhou one said as he dialed in Sheng's number. Young Master One, is there something important? If there's nothing urgent, I'll look for you after I'm done with the matters at hand, and Sheng said as he carefully glanced at the gloomy Tianzui. It's nothing important. It's just that the white elephant companion egg. I want to sell it. Help me see if anyone wants it, Zhou one said. And Sheng was immediately alarmed when he heard that. Young Master One, you want to sell the white elephant companion egg? Why are you doing this? If there's a problem with the incubation, we can help you. No, I just feel that it's useless. It's a waste to keep it with me. I want to exchange it for something useful, Zhou one said. And Sheng was instantly rendered speechless. He had only heard Zhou say that mythical companion beasts were useless before. However, on second thought, it made sense. Zhou had too many mythical companion beasts. Furthermore, he had terrifying existences like Torch Dragon and Tyrant Behemoth. A white elephant was nothing to him. Young Master One, wait. I'll look for you. Let's talk in person, Sheng said before hanging up. Overseer, young Master One wants to sell the white elephant companion egg, Sheng said to Tianzua. Sheng had spoken so loudly, so Tianzua had naturally heard it. He said expressionlessly, "You don't know what you're talking about. Just because you have some wealth, you become arrogant. Since he wants to sell it, buy it. Give him as much as he wants. Don't miss a single cent. Young Master One isn't a greedy person. He says he wants to sell it, but he actually wants to use it for us," Sheng defended Zhou. "There's no sincerity at all. Is this how you give it away? Besides, even if it's a gift, it's for you. I have nothing to do with him, so I won't take his things. Therefore, it should be you, not us. Next time, you have to be more precise with your words. As my adjutant, you can't even use words accurately. How are you an adjutant?" And Tianzhuo waved his hand and said, "Don't bother me. Go do your thing." And Sheng had no choice but to leave the office and go to Zhou. "Young Master One, what do you want to exchange for?" And Sheng asked as he looked at the white elephant companion egg. "I want 5 million, Zhou said. "That's nothing. Mythical companion eggs are worth far more than that," Zhou said. "I want to exchange the rest for some special epic primordial energy skill crystals," Zhou said after some thought. His current offensive means were still a little too simple. He wanted to see if he could figure out a mythical offensive skill. "Be more specific," Sheng said. "It's best if it's an offensive skill with special effects. It's best if it's a palm technique." Zhou had always wanted to improve his ashen palm, but he didn't have a suitable direction. "How about this? I don't think you've thought it through. I'll give you a catalog later for you to choose," Sheng said. "All right, it's settled then. Take the companion egg with you." Zhou was rather satisfied with the deal, and Sheng didn't stand on ceremony. He took the white elephant companion egg back and quickly brought Zhou a catalog. There were many epic primordial energy skill crystals on it. However, the primordial energy skill crystals only had names. He didn't know what kind of skill it was. "I can't tell what kind of primordial energy skill is just by looking at the primordial energy skill crystals. What you can choose is probably the stats. It's best if you choose primordial energy skill crystals that match your primordial energy art," Sheng said. Zhou looked at it for a while, unsure of what primordial energy skill to choose. He had also dropped quite a number of primordial energy skill crystals and learned quite a number of skills, but there were very few that he could actually use. "Young Master One, if you can't make up your mind, I have a suggestion," Sheng said. "What suggestion?" Zhou asked. "Instead of exchanging for primordial energy skill crystals, why don't you exchange for an opportunity?" Sheng said with a serious expression. "What opportunity?" Zhou looked at Sheng in puzzlement. "Back then, I entered a mysterious dimensional zone with the Overseer," Sheng said. Chapter 681. According to Sheng, he and Tianzua had accidentally fallen into a mysterious dimensional zone. It was like a maze inside. Furthermore, there were many treasure chests in the maze. Opening the treasure chests might allow one to obtain some companion eggs, dimensional crystals, or some strange items. It was also possible for there to be nothing. Back then, Tianzua's first mythical companion egg had been obtained from there. However, a person could only open 3 treasure chests in the maze. Sheng's luck wasn't too good. He opened 3 treasure chests but didn't obtain any mythical companion eggs. However, it wasn't as if he didn't gain anything. In the maze, Sheng had obtained a mysterious pill from the treasure chest. After using it, his physique changed. In the past, Sheng had told Zhou that he was especially sensitive to spirit bodies because of the mysterious pill. In this era, there's really nothing too bizarre. It was actually such a good place. I wonder how many strange dimensional zones there are around the world. I wonder how many people have obtained fortuitous encounters in them. Those martial arts fortuitous encounters in the past are just too common in this era, Zhou said wistfully. However, Zhou had an advantage. Others risked their lives to encounter their fortuitous encounters, but he only needed to download the dungeon and slowly encounter them. He would always have a chance of encountering them. Others' fortuitous encounters could be said to be chosen by the heavens, but the mysterious phone made it inevitable. The world is changing, and so are people. It's the same for the Federation. However, no matter how the world changes, there's one thing that won't change, and Sheng said. What? Zhou really couldn't think of anything in this world that wouldn't change. The victor takes it all, and Sheng said seriously. Zhou was taken aback. This didn't sound like in Sheng's style. He imagined that Sheng was going to say something about family. And Sheng smiled and said, let's talk about that maze. The maze itself will automatically change. To walk out of it, one needs to know the Book of Changes and the Art of Divination. Back then, the Overseer took me through the maze and found a total of 12 treasure chests. The two of us opened 6. The Overseer originally wanted Madame and Miss Jing to open the remaining 6. However, in a maze, one needs strength at the epic stage to survive. Miss Jing hasn't had the chance to go yet. Madame has been investigating old Mr. Ouyang's matter and doesn't have the time. Now that she's investigating Chu He, she probably won't go. You can use the white elephant to exchange for a chance to enter and try your luck. After all, this is Sislan's chance. It wouldn't be nice if I took it, right? Zhou was somewhat hesitant. There's nothing bad about it. The best in those treasure chests is a mythical companion egg. If you're unlucky, there might be nothing. It's very reasonable for you to exchange a mythical companion egg for a chance. Furthermore, if Madame isn't going, it's better for you to take this opportunity than to benefit an outsider, and Sheng said. Since Madame wasn't going, it would be lawn to lawn too. To lawn, Zhou, Sheng too. Lawn to Sheng Ling, Sheng Lan, and to say. Then, after the matter with Dragon Gate Grotto is resolved, I'll take you there. That place isn't in Luoyang. Also, before we go, you have to memorize the maze's route changes. I'll give you the maze's route map later. And Sheng said with a smile. After Zhou continued. Zhou, after entering the Dragon Gate Grotto dungeon, he grinded the baby tiger once, but to no avail. It left Zhou numb with disappointment. Why didn't the dungeons in-game change along with it? If the dungeons can change along with it, I can attempt to crack the secret of the golden light in-game, Zhou thought greedily. Ding! While Zhou was grinding the endless sea of stars, a primordial energy skill crystal dropped. On careful look, it was the golden dragon neck primordial energy skill he had been looking forward to. I'm finally out. Zhou was overjoyed. He had been grinding for many days. He had obtained quite a number of the other 6 of the Azure Dragon's 7 mansions, but he hadn't been able to obtain Golden Dragon Neck. Today, his wish was finally fulfilled. After eagerly absorbing the primordial energy skill crystal, Zhou felt another nail-like primordial energy acupoint appear in his body. After this primordial energy acupoint was formed, the other 6 primordial energy acupoints, which were originally like dead acupoints, suddenly seemed to come alive. They formed a primordial energy cycle between the 7 primordial energy acupoints. The shape of the 7 mansions resembled a dragon. The horn was a dragon's horn, the neck was the neck, the root was the neck, the house was the arm, the flank was the side, the heart was the heart, the tail was the tail, and the basket was the end of the tail. Primordial energy flowed through the 7 primordial energy acupoints like an azure dragon. Zhou could even faintly hear the azure dragon's roar. Zhou looked at the stats in-game and realized that the 7 primordial energy skills had vanished, turning into 1 primordial energy skill. Eastern Azure Dragon, 7 mansions. Mortal Stage Hornwood Flood Dragon, Golden Dragon Neck, Root Earth Raccoon Dog, Room Sun Rabbit, Heart Lunar Fox, Tail Fire Tiger, Water Leopard of Winnowing Basket. Zhou saw that the primordial energy skill was still at the mortal stage. It hadn't increased in level because of the 7 combined skills. However, the primordial energy skill that he couldn't use previously could now be used. Zhou attempted to use the Eastern Azure Dragon's 7 mansions in-game. The primordial energy in his body rose and transformed into an invisible force that resembled an azure dragon. It coiled around Zhou and protected his body. This seems to have a similar function to the Lotus Flower Buddha body. They are both protective primordial energy skills, but seems much weaker than the Lotus Flower Buddha body. Zhou couldn't help but hesitate. He hadn't used the Lotus Flower Buddha body in a long time because it wasn't strong enough. Now, the Eastern Azure Dragon's 7 mansions were only at the mortal stage, so the effects were even weaker. When Zhou used it, he realized that the Azure Dragon's 7 mansions could transform into 7 different forms, such as the Heart Lunar Fox, Room's Solar Rabbit, and so on. He didn't sense anything special. After grinding for so long, it's just a protective primordial energy skill. Zhou felt that something was amiss. A primordial energy skill, named after the 28 lunar mansions, was so difficult to grind. It shouldn't be so weak. Should I try gathering the 28 lunar mansions' primordial energy skills? Zhou was still somewhat indignant. He decided to grind for other lunar mansions when he had the time. However, Zhou didn't plan on specifically grinding them. He would only grind them when he was searching for astral combat beasts. It would be best if he could gather them, but it didn't matter if he couldn't. He controlled the blood-colored avatar to constantly search for astral combat beasts in the endless sea of stars. After going to other star zones, he indeed obtained other lunar mansion skills. After grinding for some time, Zhou discovered a pattern. Each of the 4 lunar mansions regions had a primordial energy skill that was especially difficult to grind. Furthermore, without gathering all 7 primordial energy skills in the lunar mansions region, the primordial energy skill couldn't be used. If I gather all 4 lunar mansions regions, Azure Dragon, Vermilion Bird, White Tiger, and Black Tortoise, I wonder what effect it will have. Zhou only had this thought and didn't deliberately pursue the completeness of the 28 lunar mansions. Chapter 682. While Zhou and company were busy guarding Dragon Gate Grotto, another companion beast challenged Primordial Sword Immortal. It was a companion beast named Heavy Armored Titan. Heavy Armored Titan and Tyrant Behemoth were considered companion beasts of the same type. They had powerful physiques and immense strength. Their defenses were especially terrifying. Heavy Armored Titan's entire body was wrapped in heavy armored divine armor. When it used the power of the Wheel of Destiny, almost no one could break through its heavy armor. Primordial Sword Immortal failed to slice through Heavy Armored Titan's armor, but Primordial Sword Immortal's intelligence was much higher than Heavy Armored Titan's. Furthermore, it was fast. It didn't dare to clash head-on with Heavy Armored Titan that had activated the Wheel of Destiny. Once its Wheel of Destiny ended, it was completely thrashed by Primordial Sword Immortal. It still failed to force out the power of Primordial Sword Immortal's Wheel of Destiny. Zhou later watched the video of that battle. Heavy Armored Titan was indeed very similar to Tyrant Behemoth, but it wasn't as agile as Tyrant Behemoth. The Wheel of Destiny was also purely defensive, unlike Tyrant Behemoth's absolute strength, which was offensive. I wonder if the suction force created by Tyrant Behemoth's absolute strength can suck in Primordial Sword Immortal. If I can suck it in and force it to fight head-on, Tyrant Behemoth will have a chance of winning. If I can't suck it in, Tyrant Behemoth will face the same awkward situation as Heavy Armored Titan. Zhou silently did the math and felt that the chances of Tyrant Behemoth defeating Primordial Sword Immortal were relatively low. It wasn't that it was inferior in strength, but that the difference in intelligence was too great. It didn't have an advantage in terms of abilities. There's not much time left in the 3-month deadline. No one can force out Primordial Sword Immortal's Wheel of Destiny. I'm afraid it won't be easy to vie for first place. Zhou thought for a moment. Unless he got Torch Dragon to directly use Bright Torch Vision World, it would be very difficult to snatch first place. Why think so much? I wonder if the matter at Dragon Gate Grotto can be resolved before the 3-month deadline. Perhaps I won't have the time to participate in the battle. It's useless to think too much. All Zhou could do was not think too much about it. When he had time, he would grind dungeons. However, most of the time, he needed to help the Sunset Army fight the dimensional creatures that rushed out of Dragon Gate Grotto. In fact, he didn't have much time to grind dungeons. Large numbers of dimensional creatures rushed out of Dragon Gate Grotto every day, but most of the time, no mythical dimensional creatures appeared. When they appeared a few times, they were killed by Chancellor Lung. However, no mythical companion egg dropped. Instead, a mythical essence energy skill crystal appeared. It's gone. The monk-robed skeleton is gone. A soldier monitoring Dragon Gate Grotto discovered something strange. The monk-robed skeleton had vanished. The door of the stone house opened, and pure white light shone out from inside. Just as everyone was feeling bewildered, the giant golden bird streaked across the sky and flew toward the stone house. Its body was huge, and the stone house was short and small. The door was even shorter, but when the golden bird flew in front of the stone house, its body gradually shrank and flew in like a pigeon. Zhou was called over by Lung Zongjing. In the end, it was decided that Lung Zongjing and Sheng and Zhou would enter the stone house to investigate. And Tianzhua still had to guard Luoyang, so he couldn't easily take risks. Especially at this moment, mythical creatures could rush out of Dragon Gate Grotto at any moment. Someone needed to guard it. Otherwise, if all of them entered and no one could suppress the mythical creature, all of Luoyang would probably be finished. Although I can't determine the monk-robed skeleton's attributes at this point in time, we can only take things one step at a time. After entering the stone house, safety comes first. If you discover anything amiss, you have to retreat immediately. Lung Zongjing exhorted Zhou and Sheng. The two of them expressed their understanding before Lung Zongjing led them to the stone house. And Tianzhua sent them up the mountain without saying a word. Lung Zongjing summoned a tiny beast to scout ahead. Without the monk-robed skeleton, the golden light in the mountain temple no longer existed. There was no danger. The three of them successfully entered the mountain temple and arrived in front of the stone house. Zhou kept trying to spy on the situation inside the stone house, but be it his eyesight or truth listener's ability, he couldn't penetrate the white light in the stone house. All of you follow behind me. If anything unexpected happens, retreat immediately. Don't hesitate. Lung Zongjing exhorted again. Zhou took out the substitute talisman and stuck it on his body. At the same time, he switched his essence energy art to Tao body. The god's retreat life soul was also ready. Unfortunately, the door was too small. If he summoned Six-Winged, he wouldn't be able to enter. Therefore, Zhou didn't summon Six-Wing for the time being. He planned on summoning it immediately after entering the door. Lung Zongjing had already gotten the tiny beast to enter the stone house. After confirming that there was no danger of death, he led Zhou and Sheng into the stone house. Zhou walked through the stone door, and his body entered the white light. He felt very strange, as though he was walking in water. However, the white light was something he couldn't touch. Due to the white light, Zhou couldn't see anything. However, this feeling didn't last long. After taking 3 steps, the white light in front of him vanished, and his eyes regained their clarity. However, the scene in front of him left Zhou alarmed. The scene in front of him wasn't a stone house. It was a mysterious kingdom. The architectural style was very strange. The towers, buildings, monuments, and buildings had all sorts of Buddha statues. What was even more surprising was that this kingdom was paved with golden bricks. All the buildings and statues were made of gold. They looked resplendent and dazzling. There were all sorts of mysterious Buddha statues that dazzled the eyes. Zhou had never seen many of them before. They didn't match the style of Dragon Gate Grotto. In the middle of the Buddhist kingdom, there was a huge golden Buddha statue that was more than 10,000 feet tall. From afar, the Buddha statue's body pierced through the clouds. Its eyebrows were lowered, as though it was looking down at all living things. Zhou looked at the shape of the Buddha statue and realized that it resembled Lushna Buddha. According to what Zhou knew, Lushna Buddha was the Sambhogakaya Buddha. It had attained the Buddha fruit of absolute truth and was a symbol of wisdom in Buddhism. Legend had it that in Dragon Gate Grotto, there was a Lushna Buddha's face. It was carved according to the face of an ancient female monarch. Of course, this was only a legend. Zhou secretly heaved a sigh of relief when he saw Sheng and Lung Zongjing beside him. When he looked at them, he saw that they were looking ahead of the long street. The skeleton in monk robes was walking on the long street. It held the golden crystal bead in its hand as though it was holding a tiny sun as it walked towards the Buddha. For some reason, the monk-robed skeleton walked very slowly as though it was treading on thin ice. In the sky, the golden bird spread its wings and similarly flew in the direction of the Buddha. Its body was like a rock that could travel thousands of kilometers with a flap of its wings, but for some reason, it failed to close the distance between it and the Buddha. Chapter 683. Zhou had already summoned the six-winged guardian dragon and had it appear on his back in the form of dragon wings. Entering such a strange place in reality, Zhou didn't dare be careless. They turned around and found that the stone door was no longer behind them. Behind them was an endless void. This huge golden Buddha nation was actually floating in the void like an island, and they were standing on the edge of the golden Buddha nation. Zhou looked around, but failed to find a way back. He looked at Sheng and asked, Sheng, can you see the way back? And Sheng shook his head and said, I can't see it. I'm afraid things are a little troublesome. Young Master One, you have to be careful at all times. Lung Zongjing said, Look at the Buddha's glabella. Zhou and Sheng looked over and saw a huge piece of glass in the Buddha's glabella. It emitted a strange glow. To Buddhists, it should be the Bakra form, one of the 32 forms of Gautama. It represents the source of all religions, and Sheng said. Lung Zongjing nodded and said, The form of Philosophes is one of the original forms of Buddha. It shrinks between the eyebrows, and when craftsmen carve the Buddha statue, there's no way to show the true form of Philosophes. All they do is carve a circle or spiral to represent the form of Philosophes. Look carefully at those white hairs. Don't you think there's something strange? Zhou and Sheng focused their gazes and felt that the white hairs were glowing like clear glass. As it was too far away, Truth Listener's power couldn't reach that far. Zhou didn't sense any danger, so he switched to the small perfection of wisdom and used the 8 perfections wisdom and the Hell King life soul to strengthen his senses before carefully looking at the white infinity. With a glance, Zhou immediately noticed something amiss. The white hairs weren't glass at all. They were clearly a cocoon formed from crystal threads. That's a guardian cocoon, Zhou said in surprise. Lung Zongjing said with a heavy expression, From the looks of it, it's the guardian cocoon. I originally thought that Dragon Gate Grotto only had one in Dragon's Well. I never expected there to be another one. Could it be that everything that happened in Dragon Gate Grotto is because of the cocoon of the Guardian? But this didn't make sense. Didn't they say that the Guardians would only choose humans as contractors? Why are the monk-robed skeleton and the golden-winged bird here? Zhou frowned. No one could answer his question. The three of them watched from afar as the monk-robed skeleton walked towards the Buddha. They also watched the golden-winged bird fly at high speed. However, be it the monk-robed skeleton or the golden-winged bird, they were unable to close the distance between them. It was as though they were running on the spot. There's a great terror within this Buddhist kingdom that ordinary beings can't pass through. Little Zhou, summon that great might Vajra bull and see if it can approach the Buddha statue, Lung Zongjing said. Zhou hurriedly summoned the great might Vajra bull and got it to walk towards the Buddha. Speaking of which, it was strange. The golden-winged bird flew so fast that it could travel hundreds of kilometers with a flap of its wings, but it was unable to approach the Buddha. However, the great might Vajra bull only slowly stepped on the golden bricks and easily closed the distance. It was about to catch up to the monk-robed skeleton. Indeed, only Buddha elemental creatures can pass through the Buddhist kingdom. That monk-robed skeleton is indeed not a booty elemental creature. It must be relying on the crystal in its hand to slowly walk towards the Buddha. As for the golden-winged bird, it can't approach it no matter what. It's even worse than the monk-robed skeleton. As Long Zongjing spoke, he got Zhou to summon the great Might Vudra Bull back to prevent it from encountering the monk-robed skeleton. At that moment, he suddenly heard a bird's cry resound through the clouds. The golden-winged bird's body suddenly expanded like a golden cloud that blotted out the sky. It almost enveloped the entire Buddhist kingdom in its shadow. It flapped its wings, and a terrifying force tore through the void as it rapidly approached the Buddha. It actually broke through the restrictions of the Buddhist kingdom's strange power. What terrifying might! I reckon only a gigantified tyrant behemoth can compare to it. Zhou was alarmed. Soon, the golden-winged bird arrived in front of the Buddha's statue. As Long Zongjing expected, it was indeed here for the guardian cocoon. It flew to the top of the Buddha's head and grabbed at the cocoon with one claw. The monk-robed skeleton also noticed the golden-winged bird's actions. A strange glint flashed in its eyes as it raised the crystal in its hand. A golden beam shot out from the crystal and instantly blasted at the golden-winged bird's body. The golden-winged bird didn't dare be hit by the golden light. It gave up on the guardian cocoon and flapped its wings to dodge. The crystal in the monk-robed skeleton's hand constantly emitted golden beams of light, preventing the golden-winged bird from approaching the guardian cocoon. The golden-winged bird's actions were interrupted several times. Immediately, it turned ferocious as it flapped its wings and transformed into a golden beam of light that charged at the monk-robed skeleton. Lightning flashed in its eyes. As the monk-robed skeleton advanced, it raised the crystal in its hand to emit golden light and fought the golden-winged bird. The golden-winged bird seemed to be afraid of the crystal in its hand. It was forced back by the light emitted by the crystal every time. Long Zongjing stared at the monk-robed skeleton and the crystal in its hand for a long time, as though he was thinking about something. After a while, Long Zongjing suddenly turned to Zhou and said, "Little Zhou, get the great Might Vudra Bull to carry us to the Buddha." Although Long Zongjing didn't explain why he was doing this, Zhou hurriedly summoned the great Might Vudra Bull when he saw his solemn expression. Thankfully, the great Might Vudra Bull was huge, so it was more than enough for 3 people to sit on. The 3 of them sat on the bull's back as the great Might Vudra Bull immediately ran towards the Buddha. The monk-robed skeleton needed to walk towards the Buddha step by step, but the great Might Vudra Bull ran very quickly. Soon, it caught up to the monk-robed skeleton. While it was fighting the golden-winged rock, it rushed past it. When the monk-robed skeleton saw the great Might Vudra Bull run over with the 3 of them on its back, the strange light in its eye sockets immediately lit up. The crystal in its hand immediately emitted a golden light. Just like when it was in the mountain temple, it enveloped a large area, enveloping the great Might Vudra Bull and Zhou. Zhou immediately felt the runic heavy armor on his body melt like bubbles. Even the great Might Vudra Bull's body couldn't withstand the terrifying golden light. It was like a melting candle as its golden flesh melted. Long Zongjing and Shang's situation was the same. The armor on their bodies melted. In an instant, the armor of the 3 of them couldn't hold on any longer and was about to collapse. Zhou pulled out the golden overlord sword and slashed at the monk-robed skeleton. At the same time, he ordered the great Might Vudra Bull to use the soul suppression bell. Clang! The moment the soul suppression bell rang, the monk-robed skeleton was taken aback. The golden light emitted by the crystal in its hand dimmed. Taking this opportunity, Long Zongjing and Shang attacked at the same time. Long Zongjing summoned the azure rainbow flying sword that Zhou had seen before and slashed at the monk-robed skeleton. Shang used love letters text ability to send words at the monk-robed skeleton. Chapter 684. The soul suppression bell's stun duration was too short. By the time the golden sword beam slashed at the monk-robed skeleton, it had already reacted. It held the crystal in one hand and waved its other hand. The golden sword beam was immediately shattered by it, as the azure rainbow flying sword was sent flying almost at the same time. When Sheng's text arrived in front of it, it opened its mouth and blew, producing a strange cold wind that dissipated the power of the text. Despite fighting 3 alone, the monk-robed skeleton still had the upper hand. He raised the crystal in his hand again as golden light shot out. However, this golden light wasn't aimed at the trio. It transformed into a beam of light that shot towards the golden-winged bird. It turned out that the golden-winged bird had taken advantage of the battle between the monk-robed skeleton and Zhou Wan and company to fly towards the Buddha, hoping to snatch the guardian cocoon on the Buddha's glabella. "Let's quickly head to the Buddha," Lung Zongjing shouted, as though he wasn't in the mood to tangle with a monk-robed skeleton. Zhou Wan hurriedly got the great Might Vajra to rush towards the Buddha. The monk-robed skeleton and the golden-winged bird were fighting, so he couldn't be bothered with them. Soon, the great Might Vajra arrived at the foot of the Buddha. However, it couldn't fly, so it was somewhat difficult for it to ascend the Buddha. "It should be fine now. Let's go up." As Lung Zongjing spoke, he leaped up from the bull's back and stepped onto the azure rainbow flying sword, flying towards the guardian cocoon. Zhou Wan put away the great Might Vajra and flapped his wings to chase after him. Sheng quickly jumped on the Buddha, but his speed was slightly slower. Lung Zongjing seemed very anxious. Without waiting for them, he charged forward alone. The golden-winged bird and the monk-robed skeleton, who were originally fighting, realized that Lung Zongjing and company were charging towards the guardian cocoon. They stopped at the same time and attacked Lung Zongjing together. "Help me hold them back. Don't let them come up." Lung Zongjing was extremely bold. He leaped up on the azure rainbow flying sword and pounced towards the guardian cocoon. As for the azure rainbow flying sword, it headed for the monk-robed skeleton. Another white beam flew out. It was the white parrot that Zhou Wan had seen previously. It flapped its wings and headed for the golden-winged bird. Zhou Wan thought for a moment before slashing at the monk-robed skeleton. The crystal in the skeleton's hand was too terrifying. If he held it back, he could give Lung Zongjing more chances. However, the monk-robed skeleton's crystal flashed with golden light, shattering the golden sword beam. The azure rainbow flying sword automatically flew to the side, not daring to be illuminated by the golden light. "Go!" Zhou Wan summoned Tyrant Behemoth and got it to charge at the monk-robed skeleton while he charged at the golden-winged bird. Rumble! Tyrant Behemoth landed on the ground and roared at the monk-robed skeleton. The crystal in the monk-robed skeleton's hand emitted golden light as it struck Tyrant Behemoth. Tyrant Behemoth raised its arm to block, but its arm was penetrated by the golden light. In the next second, Tyrant Behemoth activated absolute strength. Its body seemed to transform into a black hole as it distorted the surrounding space, forming a strange suction force. The monk-robed skeleton's body was sucked towards Tyrant Behemoth, but it wasn't to be outdone. It raised the crystal in its hand again and emitted a terrifying golden light that shone at Tyrant Behemoth. However, the golden light was suppressed by Tyrant Behemoth's absolute strength. Tyrant Behemoth charged forward with the golden light and threw a punch at the monk-robed skeleton. Boom! A huge crater was blasted open by Tyrant Behemoth on the golden brick ground. As for the monk-robed skeleton, it had used some unknown method to dodge Tyrant Behemoth's attack and dodge hundreds of meters away. Tyrant Behemoth roared and immediately chased after it. In the sky, the white parrot actually spoke human language. As it flew, it cursed, "Little eagle bastard, go back and ask your mother whose child you are. You actually didn't kneel and call me daddy when you saw me. You even dared to attack me. You're worse than a beast. If I had known this would happen, I would have shot you into the wall." Zhou Wan had never seen a companion beast be so despicable. Its strength was inferior to the golden-winged bird's, so it could only flee for its life. However, as it fled, It spoke incessantly, infuriating the golden-winged bird. It actually abandoned Lung Zongjing and wanted to kill the white parrot. Even Zhou Wen felt a little dizzy from it. He wanted to slap it. The son killed the father. Aren't you afraid of incurring the wrath of the heavens, being fried into a crispy eagle? The white parrot shouted as it fled. It was despicable, but its flying speed wasn't slow at all. It was actually comparable to the golden-winged bird. Furthermore, this fellow's flight trajectory clearly had traces of a movement technique. It wasn't as simple as relying on speed. When Zhou Wen rushed over, the golden-winged bird was already furious. Its body emitted golden light as mysterious ancient runes appeared on its feathers, causing its body to suffuse a terrifying divine glow. With a flap of its wings, its body tore through the void and appeared above the white parrot. Its claws that resembled sharp divine blades were about to grab the white parrot. The white parrot's figure flashed as it used teleportation to dodge the golden-winged bird's claws. No matter how impressive a son is, he's still a son. If you want to catch me, train for another 10,000 years. There might still be hope. The white parrot cursed as it fled in the opposite direction of the Buddha. Unfortunately, its teleportation skill was the same as Zhou Wen's lost country. It couldn't be used continuously. The golden-winged bird, who had already gone berserk, instantly caught up to it and grabbed it in midair. Let go of your daddy. What's the point of flying fast? If you have the guts, let's fight on the ground. The white parrot had already been caught, but it didn't stop opening its mouth. Zhou Wen flapped his wings and slashed at the golden-winged bird's claws, hoping to save the white parrot. To his surprise, the golden-winged bird hated it to the core. It ignored the golden sword beam and retracted its claws, about to tear the white parrot's body into pieces. Clang! When the golden sword beam slashed at the bird's claws, white feathers flew everywhere. The golden-winged bird's claws were covered in white feathers, but the parrot's body had vanished. Little eagle bastard, Daddy will teach you another move. This is the cicada shedding of the 36 stratagems. Learn it. The white parrot still had a few sparse feathers left on its body. It was like a featherless chicken, but it was still clamoring. This fellow wasn't stupid. As it cried out, it ran behind Zhou Wen. Its wings that only had one feather left, but it still flew very quickly. What the F***CK is this bird? A dark cloud hung over Zhou Wen's head. If he were this crappy bird's enemy, he would also want to kill it immediately. The golden-winged bird clearly had the same thoughts. It immediately rushed over as the golden light on its body flashed like lightning. Its speed was unbelievably fast. However, Zhou Wen was in front of the parrot and immediately bore the brunt. He had already used Transcendent Flying Immortal to dodge the golden-winged bird's attack. But in front of the golden-winged bird, the mythical Transcendent Flying Immortal was like an electric tricycle racing against a sports car. Before it could even start, it had already caught up. As Zhou Wen retreated, he slashed out a golden sword beam, but when the golden sword beam struck the golden-winged bird's golden feathers, it bounced off. Not only did it fail to injure the golden-winged bird, it couldn't even stop it for a moment. Chapter 685. A strange glint flashed in Zhou Wen's eyes. He was just about to activate the eye mirror formed by Torch Dragon Youngling and use Bright Torch Vision World to kill the ferocious golden-winged bird. To his surprise, he suddenly heard a loud boom coming from the Buddha's glabella. The golden-winged bird seemed to be jolted awake. It didn't chase after Zhou Wen as it looked up at the Buddha. Zhou Wen also looked over and saw that Long Zongjing had already arrived in front of the cocoon of the guardian. He held a saber in his hand as the tip stabbed at the cocoon. However, in the cocoon of the guardian, a hand broke out and grabbed the tip of Long Zongjing's saber. That hand glowed with Buddhist light. It was fair and clean, and it didn't look strong at all. However, even though it was holding onto a sharp blade, the blade wasn't able to hurt that hand at all. Could that sound be the sound of a palm breaking out of the cocoon? Just as Zhou Wen was alarmed, he heard another crack. The saber in Lung Zongjing's hand had been snapped by the hand. Lung Zongjing retreated as he stared at the cocoon of the guardian with a solemn expression. He muttered to himself, "It's still too late. Has it already developed to such an extent?" Apart from Tyrant Behemoth, who was still chasing after the monk-robed skeleton, everyone stopped and looked at the cocoon of the guardian. Crack! Crack! The protector's cocoon continued to shatter. Pieces of sparkling and translucent fragments fell down, and the cocoon emitted a pure Buddhist light. All the Buddha statues in the Buddhist kingdom seemed to come alive at that moment. The golden Buddha statues, be it the statues or the carvings on the walls, emitted the sound of chanting scriptures. In the entire Buddhist kingdom, mysterious murmurs constantly echoed like incantations. It was as though they were praying, but also as though they were welcoming the arrival of something. Accompanied by the murmurs, a golden Buddhistic glow rose from all the Buddha statues. The Buddhistic glow gathered at the Buddha's glabella and flowed into the rupturing companion egg. Crack! Crack! More than half of the cocoon formed by the crystal threads had shattered. Zhou Wen and company could already see the creature inside the cocoon of the guardian. It was a bhikkhu dressed in a moon-white monk robe. He looked no different from a human, but on his forehead there was a crystalline jade-like object with spiral patterns. He sat cross-legged in the cocoon as countless Buddhistic light gathered in front of him, transforming into Buddha beads. They automatically formed a string in front of him, turning into a string of golden Buddha beads. As the Buddhistic light condensed, the Buddha figure appeared on the Buddha beads. When the guardian cocoon completely shattered, the string of Buddha beads finally condensed and landed in the hands of the bhikkhu who was sitting with his eyes closed. With the Buddha beads in hand, the entire Buddhist kingdom quietened down. The chanting sounds disappeared, and the Buddha light on the Buddha statues also disappeared. I am born, and the Buddha is destroyed. The monk slowly opened his eyes. His eyes were so clean that it made people feel like looking at them was blasphemy. However, as the monk's voice rang out, all the Buddha statues in the entire Buddhist kingdom suddenly shattered. Even the giant Buddha statue that was more than 10,000 feet tall collapsed with a loud bang. The entire Buddhist kingdom was shattering as it slowly sank into the void. The monk-robed skeleton and the golden-winged bird trembled as they prayed to the bhikkhu who was holding the Buddha beads and emitting a supreme Buddhistic glow. The bhikkhu held the Buddha beads in one hand and pressed the void with the other. A huge palm print appeared on the ground of the Buddhist kingdom. Tyrant Behemoth, who wanted to continue attacking the monk-robed skeleton, was slapped into the ground. Zhou Wen was alarmed as he hurriedly unsummoned Tyrant Behemoth. Thankfully, Tyrant Behemoth wasn't killed and was only slightly injured. However, under absolute strength, it was forcefully suppressed and even injured. The bhikkhu's strength was unimaginably terrifying. "Chancellor, should we retreat?" And Sheng asked in horror as he quickly moved through the collapsing Buddhist kingdom. "There's nowhere to retreat. I'll deal with him. You two can do as you see fit," Lung Zongjing answered without turning his head. Then he looked at the bhikkhu and asked, "What's your name?" "Buddha Annihilation," the bhikkhu answered. Lung Zongjing didn't say a word. However, divine light rose from his body one after another. The divine light condensed in front of him and transformed into a beautiful black-robed goddess hugging a harp. Guardian? Chancellor Lung actually has a guardian? When Zhou Wen saw the black-robed goddess hugging a harp in front of Lung Zongjing, he immediately recognized her. She was a guardian. "What's your name?" the bhikkhu asked the harp-hugging goddess. "Divine Harp," as the goddess answered. Her body transformed into a stream of light that fused with Lung Zongjing's body. At the same time, it formed a black gown on Lung Zongjing's body. Lung Zongjing's aura underwent a tremendous change due to the fusion of the divine harp. He was like a devil in a gown. Lung Zongjing sat in midair as the demonic organ throne appeared in front of him. The castle-like vertical pipes and rows of keys emitted a solemn and mysterious aura. It was different from the demonic organ throne Zhou one had seen last time. This time, the demonic organ throne had become even more terrifying because Lung Zongjing had already broken through to the mythical stage with the help of the divine harp. Every key emitted a heart-palpitating glow. Lung Zongjing pressed his hands on the keys as the sound came from the huge, castle-like vertical pipes. Zhou didn't find anything special about the zither music, but the Buddha beads in Buddha Annihilation's hand glowed as though they were resisting some force. Zhou didn't have the time to listen to what was so magical about the zither music. This was because the golden-winged bird had already charged at Lung Zongjing as though it wanted to help Buddha Annihilation. Zhou immediately released 2 golden battle god halberds and attacked the golden-winged bird from the side. The golden overlord sword in his hand slashed over. The bald parrot stood on Zhou shoulder and called out to the golden-winged bird, "Little eagle chap, your daddy is here." The monk-robe skeleton also wanted to charge at Lung Zongjing, and Sheng rushed over to stop him, but Sheng only had Love Letter at the mythical stage. Love Letter was far from the monk-robe skeleton's match. All he could do was constantly retreat and use all sorts of strange skills to delay the monk-robe skeleton's advance. Seeing Sheng in danger, Zhou summoned Tyrant Behemoth again and got it to help Sheng fight the monk-robe skeleton. Tyrant Behemoth had been injured, but thankfully it wasn't serious. After charging into the collapsing Buddhist kingdom, it immediately activated absolute strength again. For some reason, the monk-robed skeleton fearlessly faced Tyrant Behemoth. At the same time, it stuffed the crystal in its hand into its eye socket. The moment the crystal entered its eye socket, it immediately emitted golden light, causing the skeleton's bones to burn with golden flames as though it was bathed in the flames of nirvana. Boom! The monk-robed skeleton's bone fist collided with Tyrant Behemoth's fist. They were evenly matched, and neither of them had the upper hand. The terrifying shockwave produced by the collision of forces completely destroyed the already shattered street. Chapter 686. Tyrant Behemoth was extremely berserk as it constantly attacked ferociously. Absolute Strength had a time limit. It had already used it for nearly 10 minutes. Now that it was activated again, there were only about 20 minutes left. The outcome had to be decided in these 20 minutes. And Sheng didn't attack the monk-robe skeleton with Tyrant Behemoth. He kept watching from the side as though he was observing and searching for an opportunity. Zhou fought the golden-winged bird as the dragon wings on his back flapped. The 2 battle god halberds attacked from both sides as the golden overlord sword in his hand constantly slashed out golden sword beams. However, the golden-winged bird was just too fast. It was so fast that Zhou couldn't keep up with its movements. Before he could see what was happening, he heard a crack. A golden battle god halberd had already been grabbed by its claws. Under the strength of its claws, the golden battle god halberd immediately broke into several pieces. Zhou didn't have the time to grieve over the death of the golden battle god halberd. He pushed Transcendent Flying Immortal to its limits and quickly fled into the distance. If Tyrant Behemoth had absolute strength, then the golden-winged bird had absolute speed. Before Zhou could fly for long, it had already caught up to him. Without any thought, the eye mirror in Zhou eyes condensed a strange luster, causing one of his eyes to seem to turn into a mirror as he looked at the golden-winged bird. The golden-winged bird seemed to sense the danger. The mysterious ancient runes on its wings shimmered as it vanished from Zhou's vision. Bam! Zhou felt a heavy blow on his back as his body slammed into the ground like a meteor, creating a huge hole in a golden palace. The golden-winged bird's ferocity increased. With a flash, it grabbed another golden battle god halberd that was flying in the air and instantly sliced it into several pieces. Zhou got up from the ground and felt unbearable pain. However, he wasn't too seriously injured. As for the substitute talisman that he kept close to him, it had already shattered to ashes. Thankfully, I brought the substitute talisman to save my life. If I had known this would happen, I would have drawn a few more. Zhou was secretly alarmed. If he didn't have the substitute talisman to save his life, even if he didn't die, the six-winged guardian dragon would have died. Unfortunately, the substitute talisman was too difficult to draw. Success or failure depended on fate. Zhou had drawn so many, but he had only succeeded in this one. Later, he drew quite a few more, but none of them succeeded. Zhou was somewhat impatient to keep drawing. After the golden-winged bird snapped the golden battle god halberd, its pair of bloody and cold eyes looked at the hole in the palace. It flapped its wings again and instantly vanished. F***CKU. Zhou's heart palpitated as goosebumps rose on his skin. Knowing that danger was approaching, he didn't dare hesitate any longer and summoned Torch Dragon Youngling. The Torch Dragon Youngling's massive body appeared and directly exploded the palace. It raised its head and glared at the sky. Zhou stood on its head and used the Truth Listener Earring's ability to size up his surroundings. He realized that the golden-winged bird had already flown into the sky. Clearly, it was afraid of Torch Dragon's appearance. However, in just an instant, the golden-winged bird became ferocious again. With a flap of its wings, it turned into a stream of light and disappeared. It was so fast that it could not be seen. "Torch Dragon!" Zhou shouted. In fact, there was no need for Zhou to give the order. Torch Dragon had already moved. The scales on its body retracted like eyelids as rows of Torch Dragon eyes appeared all over its body. It was its World King transformation. Countless Torch Dragon eyes used bright Torch Vision World at the same time, as though countless mirrors had opened at the same time. Suddenly, Zhou felt something amiss. He turned to look and saw the golden-winged bird appear behind Torch Dragon. Its body flashed with golden light like a bolt of lightning as it flapped its wings wildly. Its face was filled with horror, as though it was resisting some invisible and terrifying force. However, after struggling for a while, his figure suddenly disappeared. Zhou saw the golden-winged bird's figure appear in some of the eyes on Torch Dragon's back. It struggled and churned inside for a while before disappearing. After dispelling the Torch Vision World and exiting the World King transformation state, Torch Dragon Youngling collapsed. Its strength was greatly reduced, and its combat strength plummeted. It was probably only at the level of the six-winged guardian dragon. It couldn't even use bright Torch Vision World. Zhou hurriedly unsummoned Torch Dragon Youngling. He couldn't let it take any risks. This was Zhou's strongest trump card. What a huge loss. Zhou felt his heart ache. He originally wanted to give it a try and see if he could find an opportunity to kill the golden winged bird, but he ended up losing a substitute talisman and 2 golden battle god halberds. Although bright Torch Vision World was powerful, it wouldn't leave anything behind after killing the opponent. This was too fatal. Unless absolutely necessary, Zhou wasn't willing to use such a skill. On the other side, Tyrant Behemoth constantly bombarded the monk-robed skeleton. Its powerful strength forced the monk-robed skeleton to retreat as its bones cracked. However, the golden light on its body burned like flames, making its body seem undying. It would immediately recover after being injured. Although Tyrant Behemoth had the upper hand, it ultimately failed to kill it. The time limit of absolute strength is almost up, right? Zhou counted the time and realized that there were about 10 minutes left. However, from the looks of it, Tyrant Behemoth probably wouldn't be able to kill the monk-robed skeleton in 10 minutes. Suddenly, Sheng, who had been observing from the side, pressed his palm on the ground and vanished like a ghost. At that moment, Tyrant Behemoth's punch sent the monk-robed skeleton retreating a few steps as it staggered. And Sheng strangely crawled out of the ground behind the monk-robed skeleton and leaped up. His finger was like a venomous scorpion stinger as he tapped the back of the monk-robed skeleton's head. A strange symbol was imprinted on the back of the monk-robed skeleton's head. Zhou recognized it as the word tremor. It seemed to be one of Love Letter's abilities. Bam! The crystal in the monk-robed skeleton's eye sockets was blasted out by Sheng's finger and flew out, landing on the ground. The golden flames on the monk-robed skeleton's body immediately vanished. Tyrant Behemoth's attack had already caught up. In its panic, the monk-robed skeleton raised its fist to meet the attack. Crack! Without the augmentation of the crystal, the monk-robed skeleton's hand was shattered by Tyrant Behemoth as its body staggered back. The berserk Tyrant Behemoth threw punch after punch at the monk-robed skeleton. With just a few punches, it shattered the skeleton's fist bones. The monk-robed skeleton was knocked to the ground. Tyrant Behemoth pressed one claw against its sternum and struck its skull with the other. After a few punches, it shattered the monk-robed skeleton's skull. The berserk Tyrant Behemoth lifted the monk-robed skeleton's cracked body with one hand and placed it into its mouth. It chewed a few times before swallowing it. "Brother, why don't you see if there are any companion eggs left behind?" Joan was somewhat speechless. What kind of pet was this? It killed it and swallowed it without leaving anything behind. However, since he had already swallowed it, he couldn't spit it out. All Joan could do was quickly run over and pick up the crystal that Shang had blasted out of the monk-robed skeleton's eye sockets. Chapter 687. In the sky, the sound of the guqin was like a demon. Joan couldn't tell what was so profound about the zither music. The zither music didn't seem to affect them, but for some reason, he felt a shudder deep in his heart when he heard it. It was as though there was a fear that came from the depths of his soul. As for the Buddha annihilation, there seemed to be a dark force enveloping it. It was like a devil hidden in the dark, making people feel its existence but unable to see it. However, the dark power was blocked by the golden light emitted by the Buddhist beads. The devil-like power was unable to invade his body. The two powers were in a stalemate. The golden-winged bird and the monk-robed skeleton were killed. Buddha Annihilation glanced at Zhou Wen and Shang, who were rushing over. The white brush between his eyebrows spun as though a Buddhistic glow had descended upon the Buddhist kingdom. Zhou Wen and Shang were just about to rush over to help Lung Zongjing when they saw the Buddhistic glow descend. They jumped in fright as they used their essence energy skills and companion beasts to block the Buddhistic glow. However, they soon discovered that the Buddhist light didn't affect them at all. Instead, wherever the Buddhist light descended, the collapsing Buddhist kingdom became as bright as a pure land. Zhou Wen and Shang suddenly widened their eyes. In the Buddhistic glow-pure land, the golden-winged bird and the monk-robed skeleton that had just been killed were bathed in the Buddhistic glow and reborn. Zhou Wen was dumbfounded as he said to Shang in surprise, "Shang, pinch me and see if I'm hallucinating." "I think I'm hallucinating too." And Shang gulped and said with great difficulty, "Young Master One, your companion beasts were able to kill them just now. They should be able to do the same now, right? It would be a wonder if it works. My companion beasts were already severely injured. If those two fellows were to really revive, the method from before definitely wouldn't work," Zhou Wen said. After using the World King transformation, Torch Dragon Youngling was greatly injured. It would be useless for a short period of time. Even if it was released, it would only have the same combat strength as the six-winged guardian dragon. If it fought the golden-winged bird again, it would be courting death. Tyrant Behemoth's absolute strength had almost been used up. Without the suppression of absolute strength, it was probably no match for the monk-robed skeleton. The only good news was that the monk-robed skeleton that was bathed in Buddhistic light didn't have a crystal in its hand. From the looks of it, the crystal wasn't from the monk-robed skeleton itself. It was the only one in Zhou Wen's hand. However, Zhou Wen had already studied it and failed to figure out how to make it emit golden light to injure enemies. The monk-robed skeleton and the golden-winged bird had already been revived. They looked no different from when they first entered the Buddhist kingdom. All of them were filled with vitality as four pairs of eyes stared at Zhou Wen and Shang. "Young Master One, do you have any other companion beasts that can kill them?" And Shang asked. "I do have companion beasts, but I don't know if I can kill them," Zhou Wen said with a bitter smile. "Then prepare to risk your life," and Shang said through gritted teeth. "Son, come over." Your daddy is here. The bald parrot was still alive. It jumped on Zhou Wen's shoulder and shouted at the golden-winged bird. Bang! Zhou Wen punched it to the ground and thought to himself, why did Lung Zongjing rear such a companion beast? The monk-robed skeleton and the golden-winged bird charged at Zhou Wen. The monk-robed skeleton's target was the crystal in Zhou Wen's hand, while the golden-winged bird clearly hated Zhou Wen and the parrot. It wanted to kill Zhou Wen and the parrot first. Zhou Wen hurriedly summoned Tyrant Behemoth and got it to face the monk-robed skeleton again. Although Tyrant Behemoth couldn't defeat the monk-robed skeleton without absolute strength suppression, it shouldn't be a problem for it to last for a period of time. Now, the most difficult thing to deal with was the golden-winged bird. Its speed was too fast, so fast that Zhou Wen couldn't dodge its attacks. If he couldn't kill it, Zhou Wen would be the one dead. Truth Listener and Demonic Neonate were summoned by Zhou Wen at the same time. Zhou Wen quickly retreated, while Ensheng consciously retreated to the other side and ran towards Tyrant Behemoth. After Demonic Neonate landed, she hid after seeing the situation clearly. However, under Zhou Wen's orders, one of Truth Listener's earrings shattered and its body instantly transformed into a terrifying dark gold ferocious beast. Zhou Wen grabbed the bald parrot and threw it at Truth Listener. Hurry up and scream. Use all your strength and curse its 8 generations of ancestors. What do you think I am? Do you think I can curse just because you want to? Whether I want to curse my son or not depends on my mood. Now that I'm in a good mood, I won't stoop to that little eagle's level. The bald parrot was still muttering when the golden-winged bird had already charged over with a screech. It was so fast that no one could see its figure clearly. All they saw was a golden bolt of lightning flash across the sky. Truth Listener seemed to have already discovered the golden-winged bird's location as it flashed and extended a claw to grab it. However, its body's reaction speed couldn't keep up with the golden-winged bird's speed. It failed to grab the golden-winged bird that flashed past. Instead, its chest was sliced by the golden-winged bird's wings like blades. Truth Listener retreated, its legs pulling out 2 long ravines on the golden brick-paved ground. However, the golden-winged bird's attack only left a shallow mark on the dark golden scales on Truth Listener's chest. It failed to cut through the scales. Truth Listener had the indestructible golden body skill. Even Tyrant Behemoth had to use absolute strength to match Truth Listener's body. Truth Listener's speed was already very fast. It was considered one of the top mythical creatures, but compared to the golden-winged bird, it was slightly inferior. The golden-winged bird circled Truth Listener and constantly flashed to attack, overwhelming it. The originally agile Truth Listener appeared somewhat clumsy in front of the golden-winged bird. Its body was constantly attacked by the bird's wings and claws. Although its injuries weren't serious, it made the already abnormal Truth Listener even more irritable. However, to Zhou Wen's relief, although Truth Listener couldn't touch the golden-winged bird, it wasn't killed. It temporarily stabilized the situation. Zhou Wen looked at Tyrant Behemoth and saw that it was also being suppressed by the monk-robed skeleton. Without absolute strength, Tyrant Behemoth had also lost its absolute dominance at the mythical stage. Now, the situation had completely reversed. Zhou Wen's pets were at a disadvantage. The situation wasn't good. What worried Zhou Wen the most was that even if they could finish off the monk-robed skeleton and the golden-winged bird this time, what about the next time? If Buddha Annihilation could revive them, no matter how powerful Zhou Wen's companion beasts were, they would still die. The only way was probably to kill Buddha Annihilation first. The situation on Lung Zongjing's side wasn't going well. The power of the demonic organ throne clearly couldn't completely suppress Buddha Annihilation. Otherwise, Buddha Annihilation wouldn't have had the time to revive the monk-robed skeleton and the golden-winged bird. Zhou Wen gritted his teeth and flapped his wings to fly into the sky. He wanted to see if he could help Lung Zongjing destroy Buddha Annihilation first. Chapter 688. Just as Zhou Wen approached the battlefield, he immediately felt that something was amiss. From afar, he felt that Lung Zongjing was playing the zither while Buddha Annihilation was listening to it. However, when Zhou Wen entered a certain range, what he saw was completely different. Lung Zongjing's demonic organ throne had turned into a terrifying demonic castle. With Lung Zongjing's zither music, devils flew out of the demonic castle and circled around Buddha Annihilation as though they wanted to lure it into the demonic castle. Buddha Annihilation was surrounded by devils as it looked down. It held Buddha beads in its hand and chanted scriptures. Its Buddhistic glow bloomed like a lotus flower to resist the temptation of the devils. Zhou Wen only took a glance from afar before his heart palpitated. He couldn't help but want to throw himself into the devil's embrace and have the urge to dance with it. Zhou Wen's heart palpitated as he hurriedly focused and eliminated the distracting thoughts. His will was as firm as iron to begin with. Once he entered a focused state, he immediately felt the illusions vanish. There were no devils in the demonic castle, nor were there any Buddhistic glow or lotus flowers. He only saw Lung Zongjing playing the zither for Buddha Annihilation. Zhou Wen didn't continue forward. He felt that what he had seen just now wasn't as simple as an illusion. It was already enough to make him hallucinate from so far away. If he really entered it, Zhou Wen might not be able to withstand it with his epic body. If he didn't help and was killed by his own strength, it would be an unjust death. If I can advance to the mythical stage myself, I won't have to worry so much. I won't need to rely solely on companion beasts to fight. Zhou Wen had the intention to advance to the mythical stage, but he had no clue. Lung Zongjing and Jiang Yan had advanced to the mythical stage by contracting guardians, but Zhou Wen didn't wish to take this path. This path seemed the simplest, but the drawbacks were too great. It was impossible for him to fuse with a guardian all the time. If he encountered any sudden danger, he might die without even having the chance to fuse. Can I really only do spirit casting? Zhou Wen was considering if he should take Wang Mingyuan's path. Although that path was difficult, it was a true advancement to the mythical stage. However, his body would become unlike a human's and closer to dimensional creatures. Furthermore, he might be ostracized by humans. It's really hard to choose. I should advance my life soul to a perfect body first and see if there's a third path. These thoughts flashed through Zhou Wen's mind. Since he couldn't help Lung Zongjing, he planned on returning to deal with the monk-robed skeleton and the golden-winged bird. Without the crystal, Zhou Wen had no choice but to return. These thoughts only flashed through his mind. These thoughts flashed through Zhou Wen's mind. These thoughts flashed through Zhou Wen. These thoughts flashed through Zhou's mind. Since he couldn't help but the thought. However, Tyrant Behemoth was just too ferocious. Even though it was suppressed, it still attacked fearlessly. It caused quite a bit of trouble for the monk-robed skeleton. Even if it was injured, it wasn't too dangerous for the time being. Master One, that saint was. That Tian, One, Chun Shan, was. Zhou Wen looked at the golden-winged bird and Truth Listener again. Truth Listener looked somewhat pathetic. It was like a clumsy bear that was being teased by the golden-winged bird, but it failed to touch it. Instead, it had many wounds left by the golden-winged bird. Although they were all light injuries, they nearly made Truth Listener go berserk. The golden-winged bird is too fast. How can I help Truth Listener? With my speed, I definitely can't catch up to it. No matter how powerful my attack is, it's useless against it. Should I use the Great Might Vajra Bull's Soul Suppression Bell? However, the Soul Suppression Bell has an area of effect. Its effects are useful on both sides. If the golden-winged bird and Truth Listener are stunned together, it doesn't seem to be of much help to the battle situation. Just as Zhou Wen was thinking about how to help Truth Listener, he saw another earring shatter in the enraged Truth Listener's ear. With the shattering of the earring, Truth Listener's body underwent a strange change. This time, it didn't become larger, but a strange black symbol appeared on the first scale on its body. The symbol burned with black flames, like a devil's mark in hell. Truth Listener's dark golden body also looked dark due to the appearance of the mark. Enveloped by the black flames, coupled with its eyes that were filled with hostility and brutality, it looked like a demonic beast that had rushed out of hell. Zhou could sense that Truth Listener's emotions had become even more irritable and unstable. It was showing signs of madness, almost making Zhou unable to sense the soul connection between him and it. The golden-winged bird flashed past Truth Listener's side again, but this time, Truth Listener's claws grabbed the golden-winged bird's leg at that instant. Bam! Truth Listener exerted strength with its arm and pulled the golden-winged bird down from the sky. It slammed it into the ground, creating a huge crater in the golden ground. Then, Truth Listener's claws grabbed the golden-winged bird's legs. With a violent roar, it suddenly exerted strength, about to tear the golden-winged bird into two. The golden light on the golden-winged bird's body trembled as its legs were torn apart. The mysterious symbols on its feathers trembled as it turned its head to peck at Truth Listener in horror. However, Truth Listener ignored it. It allowed the golden-winged bird to peck at the scales on its head until they cracked and blood flowed. However, it didn't seem to notice as it continued tearing at the golden-winged bird's legs. The golden light shattered and blood flowed. The golden-winged bird let out a tragic cry. One of its legs had been torn off by Truth Listener, causing the golden-winged bird to struggle even more intensely. It used its wings to strike Truth Listener's head. Truth Listener ignored it. It threw away the bird leg in its hand and grabbed one of its wings. With one hand, it grabbed the leg and the other hand and tore at the wing. Golden blood splattered out along with the broken feathers. The golden-winged bird let out a heart-wrenching cry, but it was useless. Zhou looked at the golden-winged bird in horror. Truth Listener had torn off its wings and legs. Finally, even the bird's head was plucked off and thrown to the ground. Truth Listener roared violently at the sky like a bloodthirsty demon king from hell. And Sheng was already dumbfounded. This was the first time he had seen such a ruthless and ferocious companion beast. It wasn't a massacre, but a brutal one. Ignoring companion beasts, there were very few such ferocious existences even among dimensional creatures. Zhou wore a look of shock. In the past, he had only seen one of Truth Listener's earrings shatter. Now that 2 earrings had shattered, it was already so ferocious. If all 6 earrings shattered at the same time, it was unknown how terrifying it would be. Zhou didn't try, nor did he want to. He felt that the connection between him and Truth Listener had become extremely weak. It was like a taut fishing line that could snap at any moment. He attempted to summon Truth Listener back. Thankfully, Truth Listener sensed Zhou's will, and its emotions slowly stabilized. The shattered earring also returned to its ear. When Truth Listener returned to Zhou's ear, the violent emotions had vanished. Chapter 689. Thankfully, nothing happened. Zhou couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief when he sensed Truth Listener's emotions slowly calm down. Every time Truth Listener's earring shattered, it gave Zhou a very bad feeling. If it wasn't because he had no other choice, Zhou wouldn't have been willing to let Truth Listener shatter the earring to fight. However, in this situation, there was nothing else he could do. Zhou had already used all the combat strength he could use. There was really no way he could worry so much. With the golden-winged bird dead, Zhou no longer had any worries. Unfortunately, he didn't discover any companion eggs or dimensional crystals on the golden-winged bird. Gripping the golden overlord's sword tightly, Zhou charged at the monk-robed skeleton. At the same time, he summoned the great Might Vajra Bull and got it to use the soul suppression bell as support to attack the monk-robed skeleton. Without the support of the crystal, the monk-robed skeleton's strength decreased significantly. Under the siege, it was stunned by the soul suppression bell. Zhou took the opportunity to slash at it, severing one of its leg bones, slowing it down significantly. And Xing also took the opportunity to strike out the fix formula. Although it couldn't completely freeze the skeleton's body, It made it pause for a moment. Tyrant Behemoth's body swelled up as it used mountain devouring to devour the monk-robed skeleton. Dong! 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 Zhou saw Tyrant Behemoth's stomach jump like a drum, but after a while, there was no movement. It's finally done. Zhou didn't dare relax as he turned to look at Buddha Annihilation. Indeed, he saw the white brush on his forehead glow again as another Buddhistic glow descended. Amidst the Buddhistic glow, the monk-robed skeleton and the golden-winged bird were born again as their bodies gradually condensed. Although he had expected it, Zhou expression was still ugly. He turned his head to look at the golden-winged bird's corpse he had just killed and saw that the corpse was still scattered on the ground. It hadn't vanished. Damn it, what kind of power does Buddha Annihilation's white brush form have? It can actually revive a mythical creature out of thin air. Just as Zhou was feeling depressed, something even more shocking happened. It wasn't just the monk-robed skeleton and the golden-winged bird that were reborn in the Buddhistic glow. There were also the two golden battle god halberds that Zhou had killed. However, the two golden battle god halberds that had been revived had no connection with Zhou, much less be under his control. They are both guardians, but why is Buddha Annihilation so much stronger than the six-winged seraphim? What the hell is this ability? Could it be that any creature that dies near him, even companion beasts, can be resurrected and used by him? Zhou guessed inwardly. If that's the case, what's the point of fighting? I can just surrender and commit suicide. There's no way I can win unless I kill Buddha Annihilation first. However, Zhou was somewhat tempted. If he could obtain such a bug-like ability, he would be able to possess these abilities. Just the thought of it was quite satisfying. Unfortunately, Buddha Annihilation might not be willing to contract with him. Even if it was willing, Zhou wasn't willing to do so. His companion beast, demonic neonate, had signed a master-servant contract. If he were to sign a guardian contract, wouldn't that be too inferior? As Zhou pondered over it, the monk-robed skeleton, the golden-winged bird, and the two golden battle god halberds had already rushed over. Clearly, the golden battle god halberds didn't care about anyone and wanted to destroy them. Zhou had no choice but to summon Truth Listener and get it to remove the restriction of one earring to continue fighting. Zhou himself faced the golden battle god halberds. With his understanding of the golden battle god halberds, he quickly used the golden overlord sword to slice the two golden battle god halberds apart. On the other side, Truth Listener was still fighting the golden winged bird. Tyrant Behemoth dragged its exhausted body to fight the monk-robed skeleton. And Sheng, the azure rainbow flying sword, and the bald parrot were helping. Zhou originally wanted to rush forward to help, but he thought that it would be useless even if he killed them. Buddha Annihilation would still revive them. These resurrected mythical creatures look no different from the mythical creatures of the past. Even their companion beasts. Are they really identical to their original bodies? Zhou opened the Hell King's eye and glanced at the golden-winged bird and the monk-robed skeleton. He wanted to see if he could discover any differences. A vertical mark split open at Zhou's glabella. It looked like a third eye, but it didn't have a pupil. It seemed to be connected to hell as faint, ghostly wails sounded. Even with the Hell King's eye, he couldn't tell the difference between these resurrected mythical creatures and their original bodies. They looked no different from real creatures. They also had invisible flames on their bodies, and they looked rather thick. As Zhou observed, Truth Listener was agitated to the point of going berserk. Zhou thought for a moment and rushed towards the monk-robed skeleton. He planned on finishing it off before getting Tyrant Behemoth to help Truth Listener share some of the pressure. Where did demonic neonate go? Why haven't I seen her take action? Zhou was somewhat surprised. He sensed demonic neonate's location and realized that she was hiding in a ruin. She was secretly looking at Buddha Annihilation, who was sitting cross-legged in the sky. So, she wants to target Buddha Annihilation? I wonder if it will work. Although Grim Demon is also a guardian, why does it feel so weak? It doesn't even seem to be comparable to a six-winged seraphim. Zhou was somewhat worried. If demonic neonate attacked Buddha Annihilation and was killed by Buddha Annihilation, it wouldn't be worth it. Zhou was still very optimistic about demonic neonate's future. He had been waiting for the day she returned to the mythical stage. He didn't wish for her to take the risk of dying prematurely. If Grim Demon knew what Zhou was thinking, he would probably vomit 3 liters of blood and faint in the toilet. Grim Demon wasn't weak, but because he was limited by the master-slave contract and demonic neonate's master was too weak, his combat strength was greatly reduced. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so weak. Zhou rushed forward to help Tyrant Behemoth fight. He summoned the Great Might Vajra Bull and Torch Dragon to help, hoping to kill the monk-robed skeleton as soon as possible. While fighting, Zhou kept the Hell King's eye open. He wanted to see if there was any difference between the monk-robed skeleton and the monk-robed skeleton that was about to be resurrected. Before Truth Listener could go berserk again, Zhou finally killed the monk-robed skeleton again. However, this time, Zhou cleaved open the monk-robed skeleton's head and killed it. At that moment, something strange happened. After the monk-robed skeleton was killed, the invisible flames on its body floated towards the Hell King's eye, as though they were attracted by some force. Zhou was pleasantly surprised. He didn't know if he had accidentally discovered the advancement method of Hell King. The invisible flames that resembled a stream of water were constantly sucked into the Hell King's eye. At the same time, Zhou felt his Hell King body silently change. So Hell King really evolves by absorbing these invisible flames? If I had known, I would have long raised the level of Hell King. Zhou was pleasantly surprised. So Gu. Chapter 690. Once the monk-robed skeleton died, Zhou directed Tyrant Behemoth to reinforce Truth Listener. The others and companion beasts didn't go over. Apart from top-notch companion beasts like Tyrant Behemoth and Truth Listener and mythical creatures with especially powerful bodies, any other creature would die if they attacked. The golden-winged bird's speed was just too fast. One had to withstand its attacks, but its attack was especially powerful. Even ordinary mythical companion beasts couldn't withstand it. With Tyrant Behemoth joining, the pressure on Truth Listener lessened significantly, but the battle became even more intense. It was similar to Truth Listener's situation. Without the suppression of absolute strength, Tyrant Behemoth couldn't touch the golden-winged bird. It only had an additional target to take a beating, sharing half the firepower. Zhou had been using his mind to control Truth Listener, preventing it from shattering the second earring. Firstly, it was easy to lose control when the earring was in a berserk state. Secondly, even if he killed the golden-winged bird, it would still be revived by Buddha Annihilation. It didn't matter if he killed it or not. It was better to drag it out. I'm really stupid. I should have thought of a way to kill the golden-winged bird and leave behind the monk-robe skeleton that's easier to deal with. Zhou suddenly realized that he had done something wrong. Chancellor Lung's condition doesn't seem too good, and Sheng came to Zhou when sighed and said as he looked into the sky. Zhou could also tell that Lung Zongjing's situation wasn't good. His demonic organ throne couldn't suppress Buddha Annihilation. Under such circumstances, the party who took the initiative to attack would be at a disadvantage. Once the other party found a chance to retaliate, Lung Zongjing would be in danger. The battle between the two of them is almost at the pinnacle of the mythical stage. Our strength isn't enough to interfere in the battle. We need to find a suitable opportunity to rely on our companion beasts to influence the direction of the battle. Zhou sighed and said, if my torch dragon youngling hadn't expended too much energy, it might have had the ability to forcefully affect the battle, but it can't now. And Sheng said with a smile, young Master One, don't worry. The quality and quantity of your companion beasts are enough to dominate the Federation. Even the person with the most companion beasts among the 6 hero families probably can't compare to you. If even you can't get out, then no one in the Federation can. Zhou knew that Sheng was relieving his pressure as he said with a smile, that might not be the case. At the very least, the primordial sword immortal and death of the underworld aren't weaker than my behemoth. Such companion beasts are rare even in the six families. Anyone who can have one is considered extremely lucky. How could someone like you have so many? Let me do the math. Torch dragon, behemoth, and that companion beast that looks like a golden ape. Ignoring the other ordinary mythical creatures, you already have 3 top mythical creatures that can challenge the top mythical creatures on rankings. It could be considered unprecedented, and Shang sighed. Zhou shook his head. Now, these top companion beasts were unable to help him rush out of the Buddhist kingdom. His life and death were still unknown. In this world, miracles still happen sometimes. Behemoth and Truth Listener couldn't keep up with the golden-winged bird's speed. They could only be beaten up, so Zhou only wanted them to hold back the golden-winged bird. To his surprise, Truth Listener had hit the jackpot. When it was crazily clawing and hammering, it accidentally grabbed the golden-winged bird's wing. The golden-winged bird and Truth Listener hadn't expected this accident. At this moment, the benefits of having low intelligence were highlighted. Under the same situation, Truth Listener's body reaction exceeded its brain. It instinctively grabbed the golden-winged bird's wing and threw it over its shoulder, slamming the golden-winged bird to the ground. Boom! How could the 2 terrifying creatures give up when they seized this opportunity? Behemoth sat on the golden-winged bird's body and smashed its head. As for Truth Listener, it stood in front and tore at the golden-winged bird's wings. The golden-winged bird's speed had a huge advantage, but its body wasn't stronger than Truth Listener's and Behemoth's. Under the 2 exotic beasts' crazed attacks, it was quickly killed. Zhou was chatting with Ensheng. When he realized it, it was already too late to stop them from killing the golden-winged bird and leaving it with its last breath. The golden-winged bird's head had been smashed to smithereens. It was no longer alive. Zhou wanted to use the Hell King's eye to collect the invisible flames of the golden-winged bird, but he realized that he couldn't. After the golden-winged bird died, the invisible flames on its body automatically dissipated into the world. Could it be that I have to kill a creature with my own hands to absorb the invisible flames on its body? Zhou roughly guessed the reason. The moment the golden-winged bird died, Buddha Annihilation indeed used the power to revive them again. Seeing the Buddhistic glow illuminate the golden Buddha nation, he was powerless to stop it. Just as Zhou thought that he would have to kill the monk-robed skeleton and the golden-winged bird again, he discovered something strange. The golden-winged bird and the 2 golden battle god halberds had been reborn, but the monk-robed skeleton hadn't been reborn this time. He didn't see its figure. Strange. Why hasn't the monk-robed skeleton been reborn? Could it be that Buddha Annihilation's power isn't enough to allow the monk-robed skeleton to be reborn? That's not right. The golden-winged bird is stronger than the monk-robed skeleton. It can also be reborn. The 2 golden battle god halberds can also be reborn. It doesn't make sense that the monk-robed skeleton doesn't have the strength to be reborn. Zhou's eyes lit up as he suddenly thought of a possibility. When the monk-robed skeleton died, I used the Hell King's eye to absorb the invisible flames on its body. Could this be the reason why it can't be reborn? Young Master One, look. The monk-robed skeleton didn't revive this time. Is it because Buddha Annihilation expended too much power and can't continue reviving the monk-robed skeleton? Ensheng couldn't see Zhou when using the Hell King's eye to absorb the invisible flames, so his judgment was similar to Zhou's first thought. I think I might know how to stop them from reviving, Zhou said as he impatiently charged at the 2 golden battle god halberds. Tyrant Behemoth and Truth Listener also charged at the golden-winged bird and began another painful battle. Zhou opened the Hell King's eye and snapped the 2 golden battle god halberds. At the same time, he absorbed the invisible flames on their bodies. This time, the process was very smooth as he absorbed all of them in an instant. Now, Zhou couldn't wait to know if they would revive later. Ensheng seemed to sense something when he saw Zhou slice off the golden battle god halberd, but he didn't discover what Zhou had done. Be it the Hell King's eye or the invisible flames, they were actually invisible to the naked eye. Ensheng had no idea that Zhou had used the Hell King's eye to absorb the invisible flames, so he naturally had no way of guessing. Now, there's only the golden-winged bird left. Zhou thought for a moment and summoned the great Might Vajra Bull. He took the opportunity and got it to use the soul suppression bell, causing the golden-winged bird to instantly feel dizzy. Zhou originally wanted to rush over himself, but to his surprise, Behemoth was dizzy while Truth Listener wasn't. It immediately grabbed the dizzy, golden-winged bird. Following that, there was another round of double fights. The two monsters' companion beasts beat the golden-winged bird half to death. Zhou went up and killed the golden-winged bird with one strike. After absorbing the invisible flames on the golden-winged bird, Zhou looked at Buddha Annihilation in the sky again. However, this time, Buddha Annihilation didn't use its resurrection ability. It looked like it was as Zhou had imagined. Buddha Annihilation's resurrection wasn't out of thin air. Instead, it needed the invisible flames as a foundation. Now that the invisible flames were gone, Buddha Annihilation had no target to use its skill on. Young Master One, how did you do it? And Sheng asked Zhou in surprise. Chapter 691. I just discovered that there's an essence energy skill that can restrain them, preventing them from continuing their resurrection, Zhou said as he looked at Lung Zongjing and Buddha Annihilation in the sky. He didn't know music, nor did he know much about spatial elements. However, he had a nagging feeling that Lung Zongjing's zither was weakening. Ah Sheng, do you know music? Do you know how far this piece is? Is it about to end? Zhou asked, and Sheng understood what Zhou meant as he said with a heavy expression, I only know a little about music. However, I've heard Overseer mention Chancellor Lung's demonic organ throne before. His Devil's Symphony has a total of 7 chapters. It should be the 6th chapter now. If he still can't suppress Buddha Annihilation at the end of this chapter, I'm afraid he'll have to risk his life for the last chapter. What do you mean? Zhou asked. No one knows what the last chapter of the Devil's Symphony is. Anyone who has heard it is already dead. Overseer only heard Chancellor Lung mention it. If one's heart doesn't die, the 7th chapter won't sound, and Sheng explained. When Zhou heard that, he immediately knew that something was amiss. If one's heart didn't die, they naturally still had the will to live. If one's heart died, they could even abandon their lives. It was obvious how dangerous the last chapter was. Now, Buddha Annihilation had already reached the end of the 6th chapter, but he was still calm and composed. Victory would probably be decided in the 7th chapter. As the two of them spoke, the 6th movement had already ended. Although the first 6 movements had their ups and downs, they were all gentle songs that guided one's heart. When the first note of the 7th movement rang out, everything changed. The note seemed to have an irresistible magic. The moment it sounded, Zhou and Sheng felt an illusion appear in front of them. The collapsing Buddhist kingdom seemed to turn into hell in an instant. The aura of death spread everywhere as countless vengeful souls extended their palms from underground, letting out painful wails. The demonic organ throne in the sky didn't change at all. It was still the demonic organ throne, but Lung Zongjing, who was sitting in front of it, emitted a terrifying demonic aura. It was as though he had turned into a devil in a suit. Demonic aura surged from his body as his fingers twisted and he pressed the keys maniacally. His eyes were fervent as he was completely possessed. The zither hasn't changed, but the person has been bewitched. This chapter is too dangerous and evil. Even Zhou, who wasn't well-versed in music, couldn't understand the horror of Chancellor Lung's chapter. Previously, it could be said that it was tempting him to fall into a demonic trance. But now, he was falling into a demonic trance himself. One could well imagine how dangerous it was. Buddha Annihilation was still sitting cross-legged in the void with his eyes closed, chanting his experiences. He held the Buddha beads in his fingers and emitted a supreme Buddhist light to resist the terrifying demonic sound. However, when the 7th movement sounded, even Buddha's annihilation changed color. The Buddha beads in his hand scattered and fell into the void. The Buddha engravings on the Buddha beads revealed smiling faces. However, the smiling faces looked as ferocious as a devil's smile. They were as crazy and evil as Lung Zongjing's. Buddha Annihilation's eyes opened as the ethereal form on his forehead emitted a glassy light that resisted the demonic voice. Black-red patterns that represented demons appeared on his Buddha body as they constantly spread across his body. His final target was the ethereal form. Zhou Wen and Ensheng felt their hearts tremble as demonic patterns appeared on their bodies. They couldn't help but be alarmed. Young Master Wen, quickly retreat. Ensheng pulled Zhou Wen back. The two of them retreated again and again before feeling much better. Zhou Wen used the small perfection of Wisdom Sutra to resist the Hell King's demonic voice and immediately saw an effect. The demonic patterns on his body gradually receded. Ensheng also gradually returned to normal. The two of them looked at each other in shock. They were so far away, but they were still affected. They were directly facing Lung Zongjing's Buddha annihilation. It was unknown how terrifying the pressure was. Chancellor Lung is indeed worthy of being known as the #1 existence below the mythical stage. Even Buddha has become a demon. I'm afraid few people in the world can withstand such a zither tune. Zhou Wen couldn't help but praise Lung Zongjing, who was like a demon. More and more demonic patterns appeared on Buddha Annihilation's body, almost covering his entire body. Only the ethereal form still emitted 10,000 Buddhist lights. Zhou Wen and Ensheng were nervous as Lung Zongjing's zither music became more and more arrogant. They knew that they had probably reached the final critical moment. Suddenly, the ethereal form between Buddha Annihilation's eyebrows emitted a bright light, illuminating the world like a sun. It's coming! Zhou Wen and Ensheng's hearts were in their throats. They knew that success or failure depended on this strike. Whoever was defeated would probably be severely injured. At the instant Buddha Annihilation's ethereal form emitted a bright light. A black-purple light suddenly tore through the hellish scene and stabbed into Buddha Annihilation's back. Buddha Annihilation's pupils constricted as the ethereal form on his forehead immediately dimmed. The devil-like zither music immediately invaded his ethereal form. Wisps of black demonic aura appeared in the originally flawless ethereal form. Furthermore, the demonic aura constantly seeped into the ethereal form, causing its glow to weaken. Demonic neonate. Zhou Wen immediately recognized the sword that had stabbed into Buddha Annihilation's back. It was the demonic sword in demonic neonate's arms. The demonic sword was stabbing into Buddha Annihilation's heart inch by inch. With Buddha Annihilation suffering such a heavy injury and the invasion of the demonic voice, the situation took a turn for the worse. As the ethereal form was gradually corroded by the demonic sound, Buddha Annihilation's peaceful face began to warp. His eyes flashed with a red glow as his Buddha face gradually turned into a demonic state. Buddha Annihilation stood up abruptly as the power in his body erupted like a volcano. He wanted to blast the demonic sword on his back out, but the demonic sword seemed to be nailed into his bones. Not only did it fail to bounce out, but it also stabbed into Buddha Annihilation's heart at an even faster speed, piercing through it. If Buddha Annihilation could maintain his Buddhist nature, the demonic sword might not have pierced through his heart so easily. However, the moment he became a demon, the grim demon on the sword came into play, causing Buddha Annihilation to be unable to resist. Under the dual attacks of the demonic sword and the zither music, the extremely terrifying guardian ultimately couldn't withstand it. His eyes gradually dimmed. The Buddhistic glow on Buddha Annihilation's body gradually extinguished, meaning that his vitality was like a candle in the wind that could be extinguished at any moment. Just as Buddha Annihilation was about to reach the end of his life, his eyes regained clarity. The demonic patterns on his body gradually receded as he returned to his glass Buddha body. He sat down cross-legged again and closed his eyes. He slowly said, "Buddha, extinguish at night, like the extinguishing of fire." Following his voice, the Buddha's body was like paper being burned by fire. turning into ashes bit by bit. At that moment, Joan suddenly felt his slaughterer life soul tremble. It was as though an invisible force was injected into it, causing it to rapidly transform and evolve. Joan was pleasantly surprised. Slaughterer, which he had been unable to find a way to advance, was about to automatically advance for some baffling reason. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.